Comic Clan and welcome to Comics at the Cross, the greatest streamers you have never heard of. I, of course, am one of your hosts, as always, Cross, and I am not joined by Nitro today. Nitro is not with us, unfortunately, but I have a just as good, if not better, replacement than him sitting right next to me, and our good friend, Mr. Lockesteady, who is joining us all the way from the Mystery Shack today. That's what you need.
Live and on location, Cross.
I'm going to say, that's what it used to be like. We need to get that in for you as like your Discord or something like that, or you were looking at getting a name for like your followers and stuff. Like, we need to tie in like Gravity Falls to that somehow. But let me do a little shout out to Lockesteady there. If you're not already following this man, then you've probably not been to this channel for quite some time, because Lock has been here like non-stop. So please go and click that link that for some reason hasn't posted in chat. I have no idea why. But go check him out anyway. Lockesteady on Twitch. You will not be disappointed. Hello GC, how is it going, sir? Lock is here, I gotta go. Lock's already scaring people away. Ads saying it's Santa.
I'll take that.
Which it is.
Italian brings joy.
Well, it is like it's, and that's the thing as well. As your beard starts to get that little bit whiter, it just you do more and more become just that little bit more like Santa. And then Chunk, oh man, no Nitro, I'm out. Wow.
That's fair too, honestly.
We're like how many minutes into this and both of us are just getting like non-stop abuse here? Like, seriously? Let me do a couple of shout-outs as we're going. But yeah, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Locke, for joining us, especially on such short notice, since I did only ask you about this like 2 days ago. not even.
Words.
Let me get Chunk as well, because Chunk the Hut is a streamer now. He's one of us.
One of us.
Okay.
Wow, the bot has clearly picked its favorite for the day.
Apparently, like GC gets like his whole thing, and then Chunk and Logs like, nah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do actual links to them.
There you go.
Apparently my boss just turned on me. I'm like, okay, that's the way today's going to go, apparently. Alright. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, Locke. This, of course, was a show we had scheduled previously before like my family got like deathly ill with the worst flu imaginable hitting us. And this actually ended up being a really great timing to redo the show. Like, as we only just found out, is we're actually not too long off of the 10th anniversary of Gravity Falls, as we're talking about Gravity Falls today, one of both of our favourite shows. Both of us have it in our top shows, and not enough people actually talk about this, so we're quite happy to do the conversation today. And it was June 15th in 2012 that Gravity Falls first dropped for an amazing 2-season run, and we were literally just talking about the fact of like it lasted a long time because there was such a big gap in like release dates even during seasons, which is kind of nuts, but we'll definitely get to that. So we are more than excited to do that. If I would highly recommend, though, if you guys have not seen Gravity Falls, if you guys haven't checked it out for yourselves, we 100% recommend it. Go, like, I won't be offended, leave a lurk on, go check it out. It's on Disney Plus right now, both seasons of it. Go check it out.
Both seasons and all of the shorts.
And all the shorts as well, that's right, because they released a whole bunch of shorts that are on there as well. Go and check it out.
Which are actually relevant to what you were just talking about, by the way. I read a little further down in the wiki, and before the show, we were discussing the air order of the show and how terrible it had to be to wait, X amount of time between episodes. During those huge breaks, apparently they were airing multiple bits of those shorts. So it wasn't like they were completely lacking in content, but I don't know, I would almost argue that's worse, to be in the middle of a major story point and then you just get Stan's tattoo.
Well, that's it. It's like later on, like as you get into season 2, like as you build up more and more to the big finale of the series, like you're starting to get into this rolling of things, and it's like, oh, we're going to air a short instead that's about, Dipper going and doing stuff in the journal, and I'm like, no, I don't need that right now. Like in season 1 that'd have been fine, but at this point I'm like, no, we're kind of building to this big finale.
That goes on the DVD, buddy. Get back to the show.
Yeah, exactly. That's a DVD extra. Let's keep going. Also, as well, I want to show off my only piece of Gravity Falls merchandise that I have, Journal number 3, Locke with his copy as well.
Hashtag twinning.
Twinning, which is
Yeah.
very relevant for this show, to be fair as well. But yeah, we were both fans of this. Let us know in the chat as well if you guys are actually fans of the show, if you've checked it out, if you know anything about it, or if you're literally coming into this absolutely blind. Fair warning, there will be full spoilers for the show at this point, but as we stated, it's a 10-year-old show and it's on Disney Plus. If you have not, GC saying make the journals do a high five. Is that possible? Can I get the camera angle right in this? So I'm going like that angle to go.
Nope.
You're going to the.
Mine
Yours like just glitches out with the green screen.
No, I gotta go this way because I'm
yeah, go that way and we can go. Yeah, your book's like just disappearing.
Yeah, it's because I run a green screen for my streams and I can't really take it down in between, unfortunately. So all the stuff I have to remove, like the bits of my desk that are still visible, or like my other computer setup that's off to the side, like it's like, that's not you. Get it out of the frame.
So Chunk saying he's never checked out the show. Smalls saying terrible show, wouldn't recommend. Okay, banning Smalls from chat. Smalls, you're banned. Get out. GC saying the power of green screen. But yeah, so this is a phenomenal show, and this is one of these shows that I think a lot of people kind of write off because it did come out 10 years ago. It did only get 2 seasons, although that was the intended purpose of it. Like Alex Hirsch had, this is the direction we're going with it.
Yeah.
We are going to go into full spoilers for this today, as it is a 10-year-old show and it's a 10-year anniversary of it, talking about some of our favourite points. This is not going to be a linear going episode by episode and this is what happens in the show. Like, if you want that, go watch the show. It's been fully available. You can go watch it in Disney Plus. Go get all the content. We are probably going to talk more about the main storyline. We're going to talk about some of our favourite episodes, some of our favourite stuff from the show, and we're going to lead up to probably talking about the big finale, which is still to this day one of my favourite finales of any show. Like, it's just phenomenal. Like, it was the perfect payoff for everything it had built up to. A lot of shows could
know it was building to.
A lot of shows could take some notes from Gravity Falls on building up to a finale. It really could.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Every Marvel Disney Plus show, for the most part.
What kills me? I have to say this. I've met with all of them so far, and maybe Miss Marvel will course correct on this specific note. That remains to be seen. But all of them feel like the way the movies are building up. They're building up to something else, and then WandaVision immediately they're like, no, it's one and done. We're done.
Yeah.
Like, how are you done? You opened so many doors. How? Hawkeye completely set it up for there to be more, and then they're like, no, we're doing a spin-off series for Echo instead. Yeah,
we're doing a spin-off series. I'm like, how can you do a spin-off series? This is a spin-off series. You've just done. This is one. Like.
Yes, exactly. It's crazy enough that you're building to something, but then you're just telling us, hey, no, this was like the backdoor pilot for something completely different. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you get other stuff which was like Falcon and Winter Soldier, where at the very end they even changed the title to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and then went, oh yeah, the sequel to this is going to be the Captain America 4 movie.
Which, I mean, at least
there's more coming, but I'm like, what was that whole big finale though of showing the change of the title? If it's like, no, we're just going to the movies now. We're going back. It's like, okay. Catching chat here, Cryptic Collie. Yes, we did just show off the journals, Collie. We tried to make them high five and Locke's disappeared because of his green screen. Which I love that the green screen is doing this weird reflective see-through thing going on with the hand on the front.
Yeah, because it's completely not green. I don't know what's going on with that.
Chunk It is on Disney Plus. It was a Disney XD show back when Disney XD was a thing. I don't think Disney XD even exists anymore.
I think it's still around.
Is it? Is it still around? I don't know. I thought
let's find out.
I don't even know.
I mean, it's not a separate channel. That's not how you spell Disney.
Humor, good to hear you. Enjoy your belated Father's Day celebration with the in-laws. Hope you enjoy it, sir. Thank you for popping in. Log, can you turn up your volume a little bit? I can turn up his volume a little bit.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's gonna be on cross.
I was going to say, Log can turn up his volume. It's not going to do much. It's there we go. Humor, so no streaming today. Nice. I'd love to have one myself, but I'm certain they're extremely expensive. Was it actually that expensive? Like, is the journal number 3 is probably like the one piece of Gravity Falls merch I've found that isn't actually like too expensive for it. Like, I started looking at stuff on Amazon, and like, if you want a plush or a Funko Pop, then yeah, you're going to be out of pocket for quite a bit. But journal number 3 is actually not bad, Collie.
Actually, yeah, Collie, the one that I just held up, the official hardcover, is on sale right now on Amazon for $15.06.
There you go, $15, journal number 3, and just to open it up as well, like it's like properly like the journal from the show.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a book with like, oh, here's how the show was put together. No, it's done up just like.
Do you have a blacklight handy?
I do not.
You know, everyone just has a blacklight.
I mean, come on, look at this. This is straight out episode 1, like the Undead. Yeah. It's like, I mean, come on, like it's so good looking.
So that's a tough question. I've never found a real answer for that, Collie. Do they make Journal 1 and 2?
They do not. Journal 1 and 2 do not have an official release, but a lot of people have created copies of it with like 1 and 2 on it and released them. But I don't think they've like, ever done an official like Gravity Falls, because the third journal's like the one everyone wants.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of merch that has the cover of Journals 1 and 2 in the same way that Journal 3 is, but they're always like notebooks or journals in the sense of like you are, you know.
Yeah, it's an actual journal that you would write in.
Yeah. And so like they slapped it on all kinds of stuff. There's even a Journal 4 out, but I think that one's not. I think that's bootleg.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, they never wrote a Journal 4. Don't start your Journal 4 stuff.
Oh, there's a Journal 5 too.
Oh, for goodness sake.
Apparently we're way behind.
Yeah, apparently. But yeah, Journal 3 is the only one that was officially released, just because that's the one Dipper uses throughout the show, and it's like his main source.
Yeah.
You know, even after like the author's reveal and stuff like that, like we never really see that much of Journal 1 and 2. It's so like 3 is just the one that Dipper keeps running around with and just seems to be the main go-to book.
Yeah.
But alright, let's actually get into some of this conversation here then. So guys, from here on, I don't know where our conversation's going to go. There are probably going to be major spoilers for this. If you do not want Gravity Falls spoiled, and I'd recommend that you don't, there are a lot of really cool mysteries in this show. 100% go check the show out for yourself. This will be uploaded on YouTube if you want to hear our thoughts on it. This will be uploaded wherever we put our podcasts up. Anywhere that you can get it from, it's generally there. You can go catch it there. But this is going to be a spoiler cast for a 10-year-old Disney XD show, so you have been fully warned. But to delve into this thing, because we kind of talked before we came on, and both you and I kind of missed Gravity Falls like when it first came out. Like we didn't see it when it was initially released in 2012. We didn't have to do the big massive hiatus between episodes, thank goodness.
Good call, Collie.
Yeah, nothing was. I'm almost done with the second watch of the entire series, so nothing can be spoiled for me. Exactly. Be like Collie, go and watch it. So how did you find out about Gravity Falls, and how did you get into Gravity Falls then, since you weren't like an original watcher when it was on?
So this is actually really interesting because of the question Chunk just asked. I didn't actually even know Gravity Falls was a thing until probably maybe 4 years ago at most, when my older son had been just exploring all kinds of random shows on the internet, and one day he was like, oh my gosh, have you ever heard of Gravity Falls? And I was like, no, what is that? And for anyone who doesn't know me, especially if you've never been on my channel when I stream, I love animated shows. I'm a huge fan of cartoons, like, in general. I don't have nearly enough Gravity Falls alerts on my channel, but like when you lurk on my channel, it plays a clip of Bill Cipher, if I tell a really bad joke, I have a specific channel redemption where it'll play a clip of the puppet versions of Fiddleford and Grunkle Stan. But anyway, so I sidetracked myself already. We're 10 seconds in. So my older son says to me,
It's all right. You know how this podcast
show?
works. That's fine.
That's true.
We sidetrack so often.
We all knew what was going to happen when I was going to be on the show too. Let's be real. But yeah, so my older son was like, "Have you ever heard of this?" And I said, "No." And he starts telling me a little bit about it. And one of the things that made me 100% immediately in is the fact that Mabel is voiced by Kristen Schaal.
Yes.
Who also does the voice of Louise on Bob's Burgers, which is one of my other all-time favorite animated series ever. So I immediately knew I was going to have to check it out. But by the end of like episode 3, I knew this was going to be one of my favorite shows ever. But even just the first episode, like I was like, okay, no, I'm all in on this. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Especially because I love the completely not related to the rest of the story, but still totally relevant post-credits things that the shows used to do. And it drives me nuts that nothing does it anymore. But like Gravity Falls nailed it. The mid/post-credits scenes that they do in every single episode are always somehow related to what was going on, but are never required watching. It's literally just you love the show, have a tiny bit more.
And some of them are so ridiculous. I mean, even for the first episode, the first one is one of the gnomes who appears in the first episode, Shmebulock, like vomiting a rainbow, which he does in the episode, but legitimately it's the entire credits. And it gets to that point of like, it does it just long enough to the fact you go like, okay, I get the humour of this show now. Like, there you go. It's exactly that gif that's on Locke's cheeks right now. It's him vomiting in the forest, and it goes for the entire credits. No purpose to it, no build up to it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's the humour that I'm expecting for the rest of the show. Like, I'm in. It's like it's crazy. But yeah, sorry, I jumped in and interrupted you this time. My turn to sidetrack.
I mean, that's fine. But that's the whole thing. It was just so random. My older son was just coming across shows, and the internet did what it did, and they were like, if you like X, you might like Y. And so he checked out Gravity Falls and immediately was like, Rob, you got to watch this. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And I instantly fell in love.
Yeah, 100%. I was kind of the same. I only found out with this show around about the same time, about 4 or 5 years ago it must have been at this point. And I'd heard a lot of people kind of mentioning it. I've heard people mention like animated shows, like, oh, this is so cool, you need to check it out. And I'm a fan of a lot of like kind of animated shows as well, like, but a bunch of them like I kind of got into, and other ones they just passed me by. People kept saying how great they were. And I think honestly the thing that finally got me into checking it out was actually Film Theory on YouTube, because they did a couple of episodes talking about how Gravity Falls could be connected to Rick and Morty.
Yeah. Which is super cool.
Yeah, which is stuff that we'll get into, because the creator Alex Harris is friends with the creators. Even Justin Roiland even does voices in Gravity Falls and stuff as well.
One of the coolest characters in the show.
Yeah. Blended. Gotta love it.
Yeah.
The time traveler who 100% has Morty's voice. Like, absolutely. Yep. It's like, it's not even like it's kind of changed. No, it's just Morty.
Yeah, no, it is. It is and at that point, Rick and Morty wasn't even sort of a thing.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think Rick and Morty was like maybe
Time Traveler's Pig was Blendon's first, which was August 2012.
So like Rick and Morty did they have season 2 out even? I think they had season 1, but I don't think even season 1 came, or was it like just after that it happened?
Yep, it was just after. Okay, so for anyone who thinks I'm pulling some sort of weird thing where I just know this stuff, I do have the wiki open on another window here.
No, Locke's just all knowledgeable in this stuff. He just knows.
Okay, listen, I'm going to tell a very brief anecdote because it's relevant to this specific joke here. There was a point in my life where I was so up to date on the cartoons that I was watching that somebody could give me a random quote from an episode of South Park. I could tell you who said it, what episode it was in, what season it was in, and what episode number it was in. So
That's an
it's not
addiction. That's what
impossible.
that is.
It's weird. Like, and it wasn't like I was like going out of my way to make notes or whatever. Just like I would watch the show, and my brain would be like, "Let's retain that." You won't remember your own phone number, but you'll know what Butters said in this episode off the top of your head.
Like, and of all the shows as well, like South Park, and I'm like, that's not
It
easy.
wasn't intentional.
That's not an easy
was
thing
not
to do. Like, they're in how many seasons? Like, even back then, like, they were in how many seasons? Like, that's...
The point that I could do that, there were only like 10 seasons out, I think.
Okay,
I mean,
that's
this was a
not
long
too
time
bad.
ago.
I was going to say, like, yeah, see if you could do that now. That's like some sort of, like, medical ability to pull that out at this point.
But what's super weird about it is it wasn't just South Park at the same time. There were other shows that my brain was just like, let's retain all of this useless information.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a board game that was basically Trivial Pursuit for Family Guy facts.
Oh.
And at one point we quit playing the game, and everybody was like, let's just read questions and go around the room. And if you get it wrong, we'll pass it to the next person in the row. Once it hit me, it never left. We wound up putting the game away because they were on like the fourth question in a row. And the person reading the card, literally all they said was, "What day did Lois?" And I said, "Catil's Day." And you could hear a pin drop. Because the rest of the question is, what day did Lois say that they made up so that they could have an extra day of whatever news show was relevant at that time? And they made up Catil's Day for the show. But, like, I knew it halfway through the question. And they're like, all right, let's put this game away. We're done.
Log ruining people's fun since what year?
Oh, that was easily a decade ago.
Can I say as well, Pip-Boy Wasteland, first time chatter in there. How are you doing? Welcome on in, Pip-Boy. Thank you for joining us for our Gravity Falls review. That has quickly skewed off into talking about all animated shows, apparently.
Yes.
Because that's how we roll at Comics in the Cross. Never sticking on topic for more than 5 minutes.
This is my brain at any given moment. But to the relevant question, Time Traveler's Pig aired August of 2012. Rick and Morty debuted December of 2013, so it was just over a year.
And to Colley's point as well, like, it's almost like it was done intentionally because there are legitimate points in the show that cross over. Like, you see stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like in one of the episodes, Grunkle Stan, like, I think it says pen, his notepad, and like his coffee mug. Oh, and the hat, that like sucked through the portal that's in front of him. And in one of the Rick and Morty episodes, you legitimately see it coming out of a portal in the background. Mm-hmm. It's like they've literally put
the Citadel.
They've literally put Easter eggs into it, and there's so many fan theories about how it's connected. It's like,
and
it's
of course
insane.
we'll never see them actually connected.
Oh no, because
a laundry list of reasons.
Yeah, because they're never going to do like an adult animated show like Rick and Morty getting signed off on by Disney to cross over with a Disney XD kids show. It's like, nah, they're never going to agree to that one. But like in my head canon, 100% it's the same universe or multiverse, because that's the whole premise of Rick and Morty and Gravity Falls is this whole multiverse of worlds.
Well, what's beautiful about that scene, because Collie just confirmed that the portal scene with the stuff is what they were thinking of.
Yeah.
What's awesome about that is that that's not even the only connection in that scene, the two shows, because that happens as they're walking through the Citadel for the Council of Ricks and Rick and Morty, and in the background there are just a crap load of pop culture references.
Yes, I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
Yeah, with them looking like alternate versions of the character, and one of the alternate versions is just straight up Dipper and Mabel.
Yeah, it's two Mortys that are dressed up like Dipper and Mabel, like 100%. If you look in the background, is absolutely.
Chuck, I couldn't tell you that now. It's early though.
we might get there.
I will say it's the one where he ultimately gets taken away because Meg is pretending to be a waitress who is a single mother to get bigger tips. Or she is a waitress pretending to be a single mother to get bigger tips. And the state takes Stewie away. And it's the one where they're having the neighborhood war where, like, they're all mad at each other for winning because they won't share the trophy for winning the best float in a parade. But do you see what I'm talking about? Like, this is the stuff that sticks in my brain.
The stuff that comes out of your mind is amazing, Log. How do you pull that stuff out of there? Like, I can't remember the last time I watched that stuff in Family Guy to even come close to pulling that.
I haven't watched a single episode of Family Guy in like 5 years.
Yeah. And to Collie and chat, yeah, absolutely. If you go to the first episode that Rick and Morty go to the Citadel, As they're walking through, and Rick's like ranting and talking about how crap the Citadel is and how much he doesn't want to be there. If you look in the background, you can literally see the Dipper and Mabel Mortys. They're 100% in there. And the running fan theory that's talked about in film theory is the fact of the, going into spoiler territory now, Ford, Stan's brother, who disappears into the portal for like 30 years. The working fan theory is actually he was part of Rick's team along with Bird Person and Squanch that like were travelling through the multiverse together, that Ford was part of that team, which is a really interesting crossover because it means there's a good chance at some point Rick is faced off against Bill Cipher, which is just a hell of a fight to think about.
Yeah. I will say it would be a way more interesting fight now than it would have been earlier in Rick and Morty, because early in Rick and Morty, they basically treat Rick like he's this incomprehensibly overpowered, invincible, like god being, basically.
Yeah.
But in the more recent episodes, he's definitely been shown to be more fallible. They had that one where
yes,
he got into a fight with Thor and just got the crap kicked out of him.
Yes, 100%.
Wow, okay, Rick is not impervious.
I mean, even in like, what was it, the recent season when he actually faced off, well, not the most recent season, but a couple of seasons ago, when he actually faced off with like Phoenix Person, the revived Bird Person, it's like he got wrecked in that fight. Like,
oh yeah,
season 1 Rick would have totally won that without even question, but this version of Rick is
with some random thing in his pocket.
Yeah, like, but this version of Rick, and I'm like, that'd be a heck of a fight, because that would be a literal fight to the death with Bill Cipher.
Oh,
because Bill, if anyone doesn't know who Bill Cipher is, go watch the show. Bill is like the big bad for the show and one of my favourite villains of all time. I love Bill Cipher. He is such a phenomenal villain. He is so cool. The freaking giant one-eyed triangle. He is an amazing villain. But yeah, so it's really cool like seeing that sort of connection with them, and that was kind of my way into Gravity Falls, to get back to the point that got us on Rick and Morty, was like, oh, so this is crossing over with Rick and Morty, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I need to check this out, because everyone keeps talking about how great Gravity Falls is, and I got so intrigued with the first episode, just the way it was, the way the characters were set up, the mystery that's set up with Grunkle Stan from the get-go, like with what's behind the vending machine and all this stuff, setting it up, and I'm like, okay, I'm in. I need to see what happens here. And every episode just intrigued me more. There he is, Bill Cipher, one of the best villains in any show I've ever watched. Like, and I love how they built him up as well. To like, from the get-go, when you first meet him, he does not seem like a monstrous threat, and that very quickly changes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, you look at this guy. He's so cute. Look at him.
Yeah, he's a little triangle with his top hat and his bow tie. Like, what kind of threat is he? And I'm like, but yet at the very get-go, like, you learn how psychotic he is. Like, when he first gets summoned, and it's like he brings Gideon, like, here, have some deer teeth, and literally, like, magically rips teeth out a deer's head and gives them to him, and then puts them back. And it's like,
yeah,
oh, this guy's nuts. This guy is legitimately insane.
Which is also one of my favorite things about this show, is that you can't at any given point judge anything you're looking at on how it looks.
No.
Nothing.
I mean, they set that up from the very first episode. Like, that picture I showed earlier in the book from the Undead literally comes from that very first episode of Dipper finds the journal and starts to go through it, and his twin sister Mabel, Dipper and Mabel being the main characters, if you don't know, gets a boyfriend. And it's like, he looks like a ridiculous teenager that there's something a bit off about, and Dipper comes to the conclusion, like, he's a zombie. Reads it in the journal, looks at the video clips from, they even see his hand falling off in one of the video clips. He's like, this guy's a zombie. Oh my goodness, I need to go save Mabel. Only to get there and find out he's not a zombie. He's a bunch of gnomes dressed up. Like, was it like 4 or 5 gnomes, like, dressed up in all these clothes that want to make Mabel their queen? And I'm like, from the get-go, it's like, you cannot judge anything in this show as normal. Yeah, I mean, look at that. It's like,
there's our zombie, or so we think.
Yeah, and it's like, he looks just like the picture in there. Dipper's like, this is a zombie, and it ends up being 5 gnomes dressed up.
I can't really. There's no way for me to really get the other half of that in there without like grabbing a video clip. So,
but it's like, that's that's the throwing everything, like turning everything on its head that this show does. It's like, don't take anything for granted. Don't take anything as like this is how it's perceived.
At all times, question everything.
And it kind of like changes the show as it goes as well, because it starts off very much like a weekly, like villain of the week or adventure of the week sort of storyline, with little hints to stuff building up to this big finale. Like, you have no idea what's coming when you first start watching it. Like, it builds up so well to this. Do we want to start going into kind of like the main story and the main lead ups to this, and then go into kind of some of our favourite episodes and stuff after that? Because I don't want to go through episode by episode sort of thing, but I want to try and have some sort of like direction of where the conversation goes. I know that's not going to work because it never does on a show.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you want to start, man. This is your dance. I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, well, the main thing of the show is literally it starts off with Dipper finding journal number 3. That's the whole premise. Him and Mabel are sent to Gravity Falls, Oregon to stay with their uncle Stan, who owns the Mystery Shack, which is basically a swindler hut, kind of like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, of like all these weird and wonderful things. Only 100% none of these things are real. There's not a thing of like, did this exist or did it not exist? It's like, no, this is all like utter BS. It's none of it's real.
I think my favorite part of the attractions in the show is that us as viewers looking at them, like, come on, how are you falling for this? Like,
yeah.
You can literally see the glue or the gum holding the antlers on the rabbit, like.
And like
this
what?
Is very obviously fake.
Alright, Chunk, no worries, sir. Just drop alert.
See you, Chunk.
Chunk is literally leaving the chat right now to go watch this show. And I'm like, I 100%, like, where we're going with this, if you have not watched this show, I do not want to spoil it for you. Go check it out.
Mission accomplished, honestly. We talked it up so much, he had to go watch it.
Yeah, not enough people talk about how good this show is, like, legitimately. But the whole thing is, Dipper goes for a wander in the woods. I think he's to go hang up signs as, like, the initial thing. Stan sends him to go hang up signs, and he finds... a control box inside a metal tree, and he flicks one of the levers and it reveals journal number 3. No hint at who the
hole in the ground.
Yeah, no hint at who the author is, just that Gravity Falls is full of weird and wonderful things. It's like these amazing creatures, this amazing supernatural lore. The only hint we get is at the author, that we don't even know we're getting a hint at the author at the time, is the fact that the hand has 6 fingers on it.
Which they don't even really address that at that point. Like, he puts his hand on it, and so you can see it's the wrong number of fingers for the in-universe hands. And I feel like that had to be a pointed decision by the animators for something that often goes overlooked in animated shows as well. You don't really notice most of the time, but think back about any animated show you've watched. How many fingers do the characters have?
Yeah.
And, like, The Simpsons is their short one. You know what I mean?
It's 4.
Ninja Turtles, obviously, there was 3, and everybody was like, oh, well, that makes sense. But then all the regular people had 5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, like, the more realistic the show is, the more likely it is to have the correct number of fingers. But even that's not a given. And so, like, that moment where Dipper's, like, hand on the book, you're like, oh, that's not the right number of fingers, is it?
Yeah, and it's like, it's just, there's little hints to it in the first season. Like, you see different things about the hand of, like, that's hinting that the author is, we're looking for someone with 6 fingers. But they don't really...
Princess Bride.
Yeah, it's like they don't address it at all. Like, I think the only other major thing we see is, like, when we finally get to see Stan in, like, the room where the portal is, that he puts on, like, the gloves, and you can see he's putting the glove on, there's, like, a finger dangling.
When I got to that episode, I was like, how did I not notice that the first time I watched it?
Yeah, it's like, it's one of those things, like, you see it dangling.
Very obviously just flopping off the side of the glove.
And it's like, there's little hints to that, but, like, they never outright address it. So the initial stuff for the show is literally an adventure by adventure week. If something happens, Dipper goes to the journal to kind of find out what's going on with it. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well. Things usually go off the rails pretty quickly, and, you know, chaos and shenanigans ensue. But it's all building to this big reveal. And I think the first episode that really starts to build towards the finale apart from getting the journal, I think is actually a few episodes later when we get introduced to Lil Gideon. That he's going to be the secondary like antagonist towards them, because Little Gideon is Stan's arch enemy, who we see like the tent of telepathy advertised and all this stuff because he's a psychic, and it turns out he's like literally this little kid.
Yeah.
He's this little kid who's like so folksy as Wendy describes him.
Yeah. But the beauty part of that is it just all it does in the reveal moment for him is reinforce once again that you can never judge anything you're looking at by how it looks, because superficially, even from the jump, like you're kind of like, okay, something is weird here, because they're all when Mabel and Dipper go to the tent and Gideon's like, stand up everybody, and then Dipper stands up and he's like, how did he do that? But like, there's no indication that it was anything other than like your mob mentality moment. Everybody else stood up, so of course Dipper stood up.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like there's something going on, and he's getting this. Almost for the get go, like, okay, this kid isn't psychic, but somehow he's getting the information to like to put on the front, and then like the big reveal for him is learning that Gideon has a book too, and we find out that Gideon has journal number 2. So it sets him up as like he's a bigger threat than we realized.
What I thought was cool for that was that the first thing was also kind of a red herring, because the first reveal for him was that how he was pulling all that off was he had that amulet.
Yeah, he had this like amulet that like gets destroyed in the first time we see him. Like it doesn't last beyond that first episode, because the whole first episode we see him is like he's got a crush on Mabel, which in this whole thing of like trying to be with her and stuff like that and trying to make the date work, and then he's like, I'm going to use my power, and uses this amulet, which is like, did the book lead him to this amulet? Because the amulet does have powers, like it makes him and Mabel fly during the episode.
Yeah, well, and then he uses it to attack Dipper at the end, and then Mabel uses it to save them both when they go flying out the side of the building.
Yeah, and it's like, but that kind of gets taken out of the equation, and you're like, okay, so that's kind of taken care of, and then we learned, no, the reason he found that was because he has one of the other journals.
Yeah.
So it sets him up as like, yeah, Gideon's coming back, he's a threat.
Yeah.
But we don't get much more for quite a while. Like literally, it's almost like a back to the kind of pacing through it until we get kind of nearer the end of the season and we get set up for the introduction of Bill Cipher. His first introduction is literally Gideon using journal number 2 to summon him. So almost from the get-go, it still kind of looks like little Gideon is still in control of the whole situation. He's still the guy pulling the strings. He's summoning this demon from another dimension to get... And honestly, like looking at it after you know who Bill Cipher is, I'm like, oh my goodness, you are so underplaying to his power. He summons Bill Cipher to go into Grunkle Stan's head and get the combination for his safe so that Gideon can steal the deed for the mystery shack, because he wants to get the shack. He says he wants to destroy it, but we find out the reason he wants it is because he wants the other journal. He's looking for journal number 1. And believed it's on that property, and it's like, but I'm like, he summons Bill Cipher for that. If you know who Bill Cipher is, it's like, wow, you're really not using him at his full ability, are you?
You bought a rocket launcher to kill a fly.
Exactly. It's like, oh my goodness, like, and the thing is as well, I love about this, Bill just goes with it.
Yeah. Well,
Bill is so freaking smart.
Always playing the long game.
He is so smart. He is playing the long game, because I think like he describes it later in season 2. Like he's been in his dimension for like what, thousands, millions of years by our standards.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's been playing the long game for a very long time to get free, and like and even like when Gideon summons him, he's still only really able to enter the mindscape. He's still not fully like arrived in our world yet. Yeah. But like he very just, yeah, okay, I'll get the mystery shack for you. I'll do what you need me to do, and just doesn't seem like a massive threat.
Well, at that point, we haven't even revealed what's really important about the mystery shack.
No, because at that point, like when he summons him, like we don't know about the mystery shack. We don't know what Uncle Stan's hiding in the basement. We don't know We've not seen journal number 1 at this point. All we know is 2 and 3 are there. Like, there's so much stuff that's still like in shadow by the time that happens.
Yeah.
And we get a little hint at the end of that episode, like when they fight back against Bill, of like just how big a threat he is. Like, they manage to get the code away from him, and like that moment of like where he almost like clears Grunkle Stan's mind after they've gone in after him, and it's like just okay, it's his playing field. Until they set up like, well, actually no, this is a mindscape, we can do whatever we want to fight back.
I have to wonder if in that moment how much of that, I mean, obviously for the purposes of the show itself, it went the way that it went on purpose, everything blah blah blah, but like knowing what we learn later about Bill and how powerful he is, like, did he let them win?
I think to a certain extent he probably
Could he
did.
have won?
I think to a certain extent he probably did let them win, but kind of like we said, like he's a master of the long game.
Yeah.
Like wiping them.
Well, that's exactly my point.
Wiping them all out, he's like doesn't do him anything at this point. But at the same time, like when he disappears, he puts like the wheel around him that you'll see constantly throughout the show hinted at as Bill Cipher in the center of this wheel with all these different images. And I mean, like right from the get-go, you're like, oh, I know what that image is. I know what that image represents. Some of them, no clue until the finale when it's revealed what it's meant to represent. It's like you literally have no clue. Like one of them's the hand from the front of the journal. One of them's the pine tree that's on Dipper's hat. One of them's the shooting star that Mabel wears on one of her sweaters.
There's a picture of the wheel in the journal, isn't there?
Is there one in the journal? I want to say yes, but I can tell you where. So like, there's very much a big hint of like Bill's kind of backing out, and like, you know, like the he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day sort of thing. It's like I'm going to step away now, but like I'm going to be back.
Yeah.
Sort of moment, and you almost like forget about Bill as well, because like right off the get go from there, it's like, well, Gideon, well, they've been in the mindscape, gets the deed to the mystery shack, gets control of the whole thing, so you're like focused completely back on Gideon. So like Bill almost is like a fleeting thought in that first season. Like they literally play such a long game with him.
Well, and so actually that's I'm halfway through the journal. I don't see it. I'm sure it's in here, but I don't remember where. That actually is one of my absolute favorite things about this show, and why it skyrocketed to a permanent place in one of my all-time favorites. It falls in the same way that Futurama did. The writers in both of those shows themselves were constantly playing a long game as well. We briefly talked already about an episode from season 1 called The Time Traveler's Pig, which the major important factor of that are that they introduce 2 characters. One is just fun. It's Waddles the pig.
Waddles.
He's spectacular.
Okay, when you first watched that, did you think Waddles was going to be a reoccurring character as frequently as he was?
I straight up was like, we're going to have this pig wandering around in the background a couple of times maybe, but no, Waddles becomes a prominent character in the show. But Waddles is just a treasure. He's fantastic.
Waddles is amazing.
But what we want, the other character we wind up getting introduced to was the previously mentioned Blendon Blandon, a time traveler who has no business being a time traveler.
So bad.
What's fantastic is that was episode 9, so we're just almost halfway through season 1.
Yeah.
And if you watch that episode, they jump all over the place through scenes from earlier episodes in the show.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch the episodes those are from, you can see that stuff going on in the background.
Yeah,
so,
it was all planned.
Yeah. The very second episode, Legend of the Gobblewonger, they're out on a boat in the lake, and it's basically Loch Ness Monster, and Dipper wants to get a picture of it to make a bunch of money selling it to a paper. But one of the scenes real early in that episode is Fiddleford McGucket interrupting everybody and screaming about, I saw the Gobblewonger. And in The Time Traveler's Pig, they show the scene from a different angle where Blendon is chasing Dipper and Mabel through the background there. So it's not the same angle, but if you go back and watch that episode, they're absolutely running through the background.
Yeah.
Or Blandon is, anyway, running through the background in that episode. And So like they just pepper stuff in all over the place like that.
Yeah,
It's just constant that stuff is in the show.
I mean, I think it's a good point to mention as well. Like, that's the whole thing with this show as well. Like, Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, and the voice of like characters like Uncle Stan and Bill Cipher, and like, he had a plan. Like, the show wasn't cancelled after season 2. Like, no, season 2's like finale was the finale in mind.
Yeah,
There was a journey that
he
he went
between
on.
season 1 and 2 that he had made the decision that 2 was going to be it.
Yeah, like he had planned this out. Like, no, this is what we're building up to. Like, he knew start to finish where we're going with this. And there is some stuff of like how the season 2 changed that I'm going to mention later on from the initial plans, but
I'm
yeah,
very excited to get to that.
But like, yeah, he had a plan of where this was going. Like, that whole first season was planned and laid out, and like, this is what's happening. It's like he was so smart with it. Even like the transition of like between seasons, like the whole thing of like Lil Gideon being the main antagonist for season 1, he disappears for like all of season 2 because Dipper and Mabel defeat him and put him in prison. He gets arrested because it turns out he's been spying on the whole town. And Grunkle Stan like finds out because the pins that Gideon gives out have got cameras in them, and it keeps interfering with his hearing aid. Which I love the fact of like that's how they get him in prison, not the fact of like basically he built a giant robot that starts chasing down Dipper and Mabel, and it sets off like an almost nuclear level size explosion when it falls off a bridge and blows up. It's like,
yeah, I mean,
like, yeah, that's not a fact. That's not a big deal at all. But no, you had a camera in your badges that we all willingly took freely. You know, it's like, okay. But yeah, like, I mean, the whole layout of that, like, we see Bill Cipher for an episode, and like Gideon has been the reoccurring villain, and then all of a sudden, season 2, boom, flips. Bill Cipher is the big bad, and gets heavily hinted at for the most of it until he starts showing up again. Where Gideon we don't even see until like later episodes, and even that it's like clips of him in prison. Yeah. Like, it's him in prison until like the very end when he comes out again.
Yeah, he's his only major appearance in season 2, really, prior to the finale, was the Stanchurian Candidate, which was episode 14 out of 20.
Yeah, and it's the one where his dad, Bud Gleeful, is running for mayor, and it turns out Gideon is using mind control to try and take over him and do it himself.
Yep.
Which, yeah, that's a Gideon thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you feel then coming to the end of like, because you and I both did the same thing. We pretty much binged this show. We didn't have to wait for anything. So what were your thoughts coming to the end of season 1? Because season 1 left on a very big kind of mystery as well. Because the whole thing was that we find out at the end, not just with the Gideon stuff, but like Dipper like reveals journal number 3 to Stan, who has managed to basically pickpocket Gideon's journal number 2 when he gets imprisoned. We don't realise that until the very end clip. And it gets revealed that Stan has journal number 1. He's had it this whole time. When we first see this bunker that's below the mystery shack, that's behind the vending machine, and when you put the 3 journals together, you get the blueprints for the
machine. Yeah,
this machine that we have no idea what it does, just that Stan is turning it on at the end of season 1. And then boom, cut to black, and like it's like, oh, you gets leaving us in. You left us there. It's like, you cannot leave us there. Like,
I mean, if nothing else, that very much cemented. Oh, they have a plan. You don't
have
a cliffhanger like that if you don't have a plan.
Going back and binging it very much cemented of like, yeah, I'm watching the whole of season 2 today. Like, I'm like, yep, I was going to get up and do stuff, but no, I'm staying right here and finishing the show. Is what I'm doing.
This is the rest of my day.
Yeah.
Okay, we talked very briefly before we went on air about how it's not zero, but there are very few gripes with the show. This is actually one of my only gripes with the show, is that it fell prey to the same aggravating cliffhanger premise trope that like everything does. They ended season 1 on that hard cliffhanger of him being like full-blown music fitting the mood, like, I finally have them all. And he's like with the glove, and like you're like, okay, what is going on? He flips on the machine and it goes dark, and then we come into season 2 and we're like, okay, what's gonna happen? Nothing
for half a season.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend that didn't. Just put that back in the closet. We'll deal with it later. I hate that trope. I get it. I 100% get it. They wanted you to know that there is a plan, there is something bigger going on here, and that we will absolutely address it.
I think that alone could have been salvaged just by the fact of not having him turn on the machine or like start the process to turn it on.
Yeah, just now I have the third journal.
Just have him with the third journal,
where the parts go,
and even open the journals to show them all fit together. Like, this is where everything changes, and leave it there, because the very start of season 2 goes into the whole thing of like Stan admitting to the kids, "I'm not an idiot. I know this stuff exists. I've been trying to keep you away from it." It's like he starts to come out. He doesn't tell the kids everything, but he's like, "Seriously, you thought I didn't notice this stuff? Come on." Like, I'm not.
What I have to be to not see this.
You know, it's like. So yeah, but I do get that with you. Like, yeah, that's kind of like. It kind of sucks that you then have. I don't think you notice it as much when you do kind of binge watch through the show, like because they're 20-minute episodes, so you very quickly can run through it and get to the stuff of that's connected. But yeah, 100%. I'm like, it's really weird. He turns on this machine, and we're like, oh, what does it do? You won't know for like months.
Yeah. Well,
years.
At this point, I mean, where's the Tale of Two Stands? A Tale of Two Stands was July 2015, and he turned that machine on August 2nd, 2013.
So you literally have to wait
almost exactly 2 years.
2 years until you worked out what was going on. I'm like, that's a long wait time. Like, I don't know if I would have survived that watching it as it was coming out. Like, that's insane.
But so, like, that's the thing. I don't love that trope, and I will say, even with that, they did use it serviceably, because him turning the machine on causes that energy spike, which gets the attention of the government, which brings them in, and it's that point we get Nick Offerman's FBI agent, which was, a fun boat to speak. Okay,
such a random casting choice. Like, Nick Offerman's in this. Like, why is Nick Offerman in this?
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing. We didn't touch on this at all, but I have to say this is another one of those shows where they just have a tremendous voice cast.
Oh, the voice cast is phenomenal.
Yeah. Some of them didn't age quite as well. Looking at you, TJ Miller. But,
it's okay.
Mark Hamill.
I was going to say, it's okay. He plays Robbie. Nobody likes Robbie anyway. But TJ Miller plays
okay.
Robbie.
my namesake here cut me deep just now. But no, you're not wrong.
That's not.
He is one of the more insufferable.
Your name's not
characters.
Robbie. Your name's Locke.
That's fair.
I literally cannot.
Yeah, so,
I literally cannot look at you and say Rob. Like, it doesn't fit. You're Locke.
Do you know? Like, I have real life friends now who just call me Locke sometimes. So I'm like, it's fine. I'm good with it. But yeah, no. So the voice cast is amazing, and you know you're doing something right when you get Mark Hamill to come in and do a voice as well.
Oh, and it's so good. The episode that he's brought in is so good as well.
And it's not even like an important character. We never see him again.
No, because like you're almost like thinking it's an important character because they hint at like, oh, it's the author. Like, oh my goodness, Mark Hamill's voice, and he's doing the author, and it's like, and very like quickly it's like, no, it's not. It's a shapeshifter, and that's it, and he's gone. And I'm like, you literally brought him in for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Now, on the other side of that, I will say, if we couldn't have Mark Hamill as the author, we didn't do bad getting J.K. Simmons.
Oh, J.K. Simmons. Half a season of J.K. Simmons, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm sold.
Yeah. I will say, full disclosure, I am still working my way through the backlog of the podcasts, and I am currently listening to the Invincible episode.
I don't like to think about. I don't like to think about that episode. That went so weirdly for us that day. I don't know what happened and it's like it was just so random and weird. I don't know what happened that day.
Conversation was good though, but specifically, it's interesting timing for me because you had that moment where you guys you broke for a minute to talk about how good J.K. Simmons is and what amazing range he has as an actor and especially as a voice actor. And this is another great example of it because, like, put Omni-Man against Ford Pines. Like, they're nothing alike, and he plays both of them so perfectly. I could never imagine anyone else doing that voice.
Oh yeah, the voice fits both of them, and you're like, but like they're so. How does that work? They're so far from one another, and I'm like,
yeah.
But like it goes again to like completely utterly praise J.K. Simmons, like just how good of an actor he is. Like literally go and look at his IMDb page. Like the range of roles that man can play is
the other big one.
Is phenomenal.
Yeah, the other big one I've been seeing for him lately is his role in the movie Whiplash, which again, separate that from old Ford there. Like,
yeah,
the guy he plays in Whiplash is just a monster.
Yeah. Like,
but a completely different kind of monster than Omni-Man, even.
Yeah, it's a totally different thing. It's a totally different level of it, but yet the guy's just got so good. The guy's just so good in the roles that he plays, and like so many characters are so different from each other. Like J.K. Simmons was like one of the... I legitimately could not imagine him casting anyone more perfect to play Ford.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know what voice I was expecting when Ford spoke, but like see when you meet the author and you meet Ford for the first time and that's the voice that comes out, I'm like, perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
Hi there, Sparkles Queen Michelle. How are you doing? Sparkles Queen is one of our new followers that came in on Friday along with Xena. So thank you so much for popping back in. I appreciate it.
Good to see you again.
Sorry, I'm trying to do a shout out. I suck at spelling.
See if it works this time. Well, see, that's why you just at.
Hey, there we go.
At tab, my friend.
No clip, so I'm getting some music in my ears. I love that that's a feature on this shout out. There we go.
Could be worse. Alright, so...
But yeah, so...
How did we get on that subject? What were we talking about?
We were talking about the end of Season 1 and then automatically started talking about stuff in Season 2 instead.
Yeah, so,
because that's what we do.
Yes. So we brought in Nick Offerman's FBI agent. That's where we branched, was the voice.
That was it, yeah, it was...
Yeah, and so, like, it annoyed the crap out of me that for the beginning of Season 2, they fell into that trope of we set up this major thing that we're not going to address right now. But at least they didn't do literally nothing with it. Was what made me feel better about it. Was we brought in the FBI, and that became a running and important sequence of the early part of Season 2.
Yeah, first half of Season 2, that was like the big running thing. And that's what happens in the episode where it leads up to the portal actually activating and Ford coming back through. It's like that was the whole lead up to that. Was then, don't get me wrong, like after that, it was like, oh yeah, they're gone now. We just spent like half a season with the FBI agents, and now they're just like, oh, we've cleared their memories. And it's like, okay,
just a little Men in Black-isms.
Yeah, just literally like, and on with our day. But yeah, it's... I think that's it. The end of like Season 1 was like a really... It was really interesting because it left on a thing of like, we definitely are building up to something. We know what the end goal is, you know. Sorry, I'm trying to shuffle my thing. I just realised my alignment for the actual show is off here. It's really weird. But yeah, it's like it was so... There we go. That's better. Why is there a big black border around my podcast? It's one of those things, I know that nobody else is going to be bothered by it, but now that I've seen it, I have to fix it quickly. Because it's going to bug me. But yeah, it's like it was one of those things of, like, they ended it in such a good note of, like, there's more to come. Like, we have a plan.
Yeah.
We know where this is going, like, the portal coming. Like, I'm sure from the get-go they had the whole plan of... again, major spoilers, one of the big mysteries, so if you don't want to be spoiled on it, that Ford was going to be the author and Ford was Stan's twin. And running with the... Which makes sense for the show because it's the whole running of the twin theme.
Yeah.
The whole running of, like, you know, Dipper and Mabel, and then that parallel with Ford and Stan. And almost the fact of, like, the personalities almost match up, that Ford is very much like an older Dipper and Stan is like an older Mabel in a lot of ways. And personality traits. So, like, it makes perfect sense that that's the direction that it went.
Yeah.
With it, but, like, yeah, they had the plan, like, this is where Alex wanted to go with it, and it ended up being a cool little twist to it. And, it's like, and I love the fact they even do, like, a little meta joke about it as well, of one of the universe TV shows, Duck Detective. There's a whole twist that he's got, like, a twin brother, and they do, like, a meta commentary of, like, oh, my theory was better, I guessed that, like, a year ago, you know, all this stuff that everyone had basically been saying about Gravity Falls. And it's like, it was almost like Alex saying, like, this is the direction we're going, he's got a twin brother, get over yourselves, just, this is it. This is what's happening, leave it alone. But yeah, it's like, so what did you think about the kind of change up going into season 2 then? Because we've talked about a few little things, and season 2 obviously kind of changed from weekly adventures to more focus on leading to the big picture, leading to the big finale story. How did you feel they handled and coped with that change and the change in the storytelling?
I thought it was really, really well done. I will say, adjacent to that is one of the perils of binge watching these shows after they've come out, is you don't that downtime between the episodes is where fan theories are born. You know what I mean? And when you don't have to wait any longer than the 30 seconds for the next episode to load, you know, you just kind of like, hey, gimme, answer my questions right now, you know. And so you have the benefit of being able to look at it as a whole picture and say, oh yeah, no, these pieces totally fit together exactly like that. That makes complete sense. That said, I've definitely binge watched some shows that have kind of the mystery thing going on, and you can see where it flounders. Like, the pinnacle, I think, of that would be like Lost. On a scale of Lost to Gravity Falls, how did they handle their transition? You know what I mean? Like, that they're about as far apart as you can get in terms of being able to appreciate where they were painting the bigger picture. With Lost, it is just abundantly apparent that they had a loose, basic plan where they wanted to end up, but no path how they wanted to get there.
No clue how to make it.
Yeah, Gravity Falls makes it very apparent that they know exactly where they're trying to go and how they're planning to get there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, they clearly had a big picture for it, even with all the weekly adventures and stuff that didn't necessarily tie into the main story. Like, everything little by little led to there. Even just some of the stuff, like, where it's like some of the episodes where like they would find certain things and they would like stuff I'm thinking about is like the crystal they find that if you put light through it, it can like enlarge you or shrink you,
make it bigger or smaller,
and it ends up coming back later on in the finale. Like, it's almost like a throwaway episode. It's not that big of a thing, you know. It's a Gideon episode in season 1, but like it's not a big threat Gideon episode, but like it comes back, you know.
Well, I think too that like that is an example of them peppering in things that they knew they were going to need later. And basically, like, it's sort of a Chekhov's gun thing. Like, yeah, that crystal exists. We know we can get another one. They're definitely going to get another one at some point.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I think what was really cool about the way they did the transition in season 2 away from the Monster of the Week format and directly into the Monster of the Narrative format, because it's not like a full narrative switch. There's still the Monster of the Week thing, but at on the underside of it, everything they're doing is now pointing towards the greater mystery.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the second episode, Into the Bunker, with Mark Hamill as the shapeshifter, like, that's where it becomes immediately apparent that this is what we're doing for season 2. The whole of the episode is centered around, well, we need to figure out what's going on with the author, and then we get into the secret bunker, and then it starts laying the groundwork for character development as well, because that's the episode where Dipper finally admits to Wendy that he's got a crush on her.
Yeah.
And just like Stan, she's like, come on, buddy, of course I knew. I'd be dumb not to notice.
Yeah, it's almost that thing of like this stuff in the background is brought to the forefront and it's addressed and dealt with, because it's like, this is it, we're coming up to the finish here, so we need to address this in a proper way. And I love the way
stuff.
You know, it's like he's had a crush on her that whole first season, and I love the fact that they addressed that in this one of like, yeah, I realise you had a crush, but we both know this can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he's
age difference, he's don't 12, live here.
Yeah, he's 12, she's 16, he's going to be leaving at the end of the summer. It's like so many reasons why this won't work. Even though, like, I get why a lot of fan theories put them together, because, like, personality-wise, yeah, it's spot on, but, like, there's just too many things that are a factor saying, no, this doesn't work.
What I think was... Go on.
But it allows Dipper to move on from that. And it allows Dipper, because, like, as much as Dipper and Mabel are very much the main characters of it, Dipper is the ride-along narrative character. He's the one hunting for the author. And in all honesty, the whole big final fight, as much as there's whole build-up of Ford and Bill have this history, the final face-off is Bill and Dipper.
Yeah.
like the big face off each time is like the two of them. Like there's this whole big thing which led to other fan theories, which I'll go into as we talk about fan theory stuff. But like the whole thing is like Dipper facing off with Bill. Like, you know, we even see it in sock opera, like the fact that Bill takes over Dipper's body and the whole big face off with that. It's like that's the ride along character that we're following. It just so happens that Mabel's on for the ride as well, because it's the two of them together working that can lead to a solution to beat Bill.
Yeah.
You know,
which was also really cool. I loved the fact that at no point did they ever abandon their bond as twins. Like there was that whole episode centered around the one, what's it called, Dipper and Mabel versus the Future, which is late in season 2.
Yeah,
it's dang near the end of the show.
Well, yeah, it's like right before the 4-part finale.
Yeah.
It
was the last one before Weirdmageddon, yeah.
Because like Ford basically, that whole thing comes ahead of like the Ford and Dipper are so similar, and the honest truth is like it helps highlight how good Dipper is at this. Actually, even better than Ford. He's mastered in a summer what Ford has spent decades of his life studying. And I'm like, yeah, he had the journals for help, all the research that Ford did, but that's one of the big things in Weirdmageddon is the whole thing of Dipper coming to realise like what he is capable of doesn't come from the journals, it's him. Yeah. What he can do comes from him. So like that's it. He's proven how capable he is from this, and it's like more so than Ford even is. And then again, we see that in the finale with like the stands like fighting with each other, where Dipper and Mabel are like, "No, we've got this. We're going to finish
handle it from here."
Like,
yeah,
it's like because the two of them are fighting, and then it's like, and then Dipper and Mabel just step up and take over, and I'm like, "Don't worry, we got this." And like they're taking on this psychotic god level being from another dimension with no fear. Like, no, we can take him. Like, it's insane.
As long as we're together, we can do anything. Is sort of the crux of it.
Because even
and
says
they live up to it.
Well, that's it. That's the whole start of Weirdmageddon, is the fact that Mabel is imprisoned in like one of the bubbles that Bill creates, and Dipper's whole thing when he finds Wendy is like, she's like, "Well, what do you need to beat him?" It's like, "I need Mabel. I need Mabel right at my side." Like, because the two, and Wendy even echoes that. The things I've seen you two do is some of the most crazy stuff I've ever seen. Like they really hammer home this whole twin duality of like that's where the power comes from, is the two of them, and it's so well done. It's not overdone, like you're hit over the head with it insanely, but it's like they hit it home, and I'm like, you just get so invested in it. Like, you know, it's like, I need to go get Mabel. Like, hell yeah, let's go get her. Come on,
yeah,
let's do it. You know, it's like it's so
and everyone
well done.
Rallies around it immediately because like everyone has been made aware through whatever interaction they've had with them that like as long as these two are working together, we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, the whole of Gravity falls in line behind their leadership to take on Bill, and like the finale is like, it's such good storytelling. Like like Alex Hirsch is such a phenomenal storyteller. Like it cannot be like understated how good the storytelling is. Like, yeah, it's some great stuff, there's some great animation, some great like little love stories, but like the whole, if you watch Gravity Falls from beginning to end, the story is what's going to keep you invested, because the character stories, the arcs that they take, and the overall arching story is just so well done. Like I am not ashamed to admit, like it got me in tears with that finale when it happened. Like they had built up such a connection with these characters. Like I felt the emotions they were feeling going into that finale. It was so good.
I think it was literally the last thing we were talking about before we went live, where you had mentioned that it's nice to see that Alex Hirsch has been able to resist the reboot / restart mentality of literally everything else around. And I'll say I agree that it's nice to see that they haven't cashed in on this nostalgia factor just because everything else is doing it. But I would absolutely love to see them do a self-contained one-off revisit.
Oh yes,
like either a movie or like a short season of like 4 episodes or something.
Oh, don't get me wrong, 100% I would love it. 100% if they announced like, yeah, you're getting more Gravity Falls, I'm there. As soon as that drops in Disney Plus, I will be sitting at my screen watching it. I guarantee 100%. It. But that thing
it would have to be something that's it has to have a purpose. It can't just be because it's the anniversary, I guess we should.
Yeah, and that's it. There should be a purpose to it. I don't want him to do something just because, and I definitely don't want anyone else to do it. Like, if it's not going to be him, it has to be him. Like, I've seen a lot of people talking about it with the 10th anniversary. It's like, it'd be so cool to see like a movie of like Dipper and Mabel that little bit older now. You know, like,
they didn't even do like literally just the next summer, because they went back.
Oh yeah, well that's it. It's like the whole thing. Like, after an experience like that, why would you not go back the next one? Hey Xena, how's it going, sweetheart? Good to see you.
Hi Xena.
Thank you for stopping by.
Yes. I'm glad you would be on that.
I'm going to pay money to see a Gravity Falls movie. Oh yeah, 100%. If that was going to drop in theaters, I would be there. Opening night, I'm going to see freaking Gravity Falls. Like,
no question.
Yeah, not even a doubt in my mind. I'm like, you're giving me more Gravity Falls content? Hell yeah.
I mean, I bought my Thor: Love and Thunder tickets the day they went on sale. You better believe I'd be waiting for the Gravity Falls tickets to flip.
Oh yeah, as soon as the pre-sales hits for that, I'm like, yep, I'm done. They're mine.
Yep.
So there
was one other thing I wanted to say though.
Yeah, go for it.
We were talking earlier about the way that season 2 kicked into putting a bow on things and moving us forward in the overall plot, but also in the background plots as well. With Into the Bunker, with Dipper admitting to to Wendy how he felt, and Wendy being like, "Yeah, not so much." I said Mabel there because Mabel pushed him to do it, just so we're clear. But a couple episodes later, the 10th episode, we get Northwest Mansion Mystery, which ties into a couple of things we just touched on. One of my favorite episodes in the whole show. It's such a good episode. And it leans into the horror as well. Like, that episode's one of those ones that's like freaking like dead animal heads in the wall start bleeding, and I'm like, okay, this isn't your normal Disney XD show. This get greenlit. But one of the major things that it does is it sets up a lot of fan theories or shipping, more specifically, of Dipper and Pacifica.
I'm one of those shippers. With the way Pacifica changes, the thing is, Pacifica is like a very much a antagonist for Mabel, of the rich mean girl. The way that we find it, the fact of like she's one of the most hated characters for a season and a half, almost 2 seasons, and then it's like, and then in that one episode, you give me a backstory that makes me feel sympathy for her and actually back her, and I'm like, I don't know how you did that, but you did it. And you made me back this character of like, I'm actually backing her, and Dipper is like, that could be a little something there as they get older. Like, I'd be totally in for that. Don't get me wrong, like, that's another one of those ones, like I talked to you, like, there's weird character stuff later on. Like, she's one of the ones, like, when it gets to the finale, like, her character kind of reverses a little bit.
Yeah.
But I kind of chalk it up to, like, her parents are still there and they have a weird control thing over her. But yeah, like, you make me, like, absolutely adore one of the characters I hated for a season and a half, and I'm like, if you can do that to me, that's good writing, you know.
Now I have to throw this out there too. We talked earlier about the voice cast. Cannot be forgotten that Pacifica's father is voiced by none other than Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion, my boy.
Malcolm Reynolds himself.
Freaking.
And her mother is Kari Wahlgren, who does a bunch of voices in Rick and Morty, obviously, but is Starfire in the some of the Teen Titans animated movies.
Like we said, the voice cast
are hugely.
The voice cast in this is just phenomenal. It really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's one of the episodes I love. Like, if you're gonna watch Gravity Falls, like, push through at least till you get to the Northwest Manor. Like, that is one of my favorite episodes of the series overall. Like, it's so good.
So you hit that one, and you see that the character development of Dipper getting over Wendy was not throwaway, because like, it's very clear there's some chemistry between him and Pacifica, and he's very much like, maybe. And so that's where that shipping came from.
It's set up in it's a two-way thing as well. Like, they set up like there's a definite attraction. Like, she's been very standoffish of like the Pines family because of like the lower class and everything, but she definitely has a thing for Dipper as well. Like, he cracks through that. And I think part of it is the whole thing of like, Dipper's like, I don't care. It's like, I don't care. Like, he literally tells her at the start of the episode, like, I would tell her to her face like she's the worst, and he opens the door and she's standing there and goes, "You're the worst," slam, and walks away.
It's such a perfect moment. But so that's the thing. You get the character growth with Pacifica, like you talked about, because again, everyone hated her, and now you're kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, your previous arc still sucked, but I get it.
But yet you get why the character is the way she is, though.
Yeah, but the most important thing you get is something else that we already talked about. Is proving again, it's Dipper. Dipper solves that whole mystery.
Yeah.
Like, even without Mabel, like, Mabel's there, but Dipper's the one that solves it. And then at the very, very end, of course, he gets turned to wood too, and it's Pacifica that winds up saving him. But, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but he worked it out. He's
he's all Dipper.
And even at that as well, he's the one that's enlisted by the Northwest, like, because he's actually in the local paper of defeating like a creature, like a big vampire bat looking thing in the paper, which is a story. I'm like, why aren't we watching that episode? That looks cool. But the fact of, like,
one-offs I could have seen.
Yeah, like, that's why he gets hired, because they hear about him and, like, go get him, and they enlist him in to do this. And it's so good, the writing for this. I do want to get into the main story leading into the finale. I want to talk a little bit about Ford and his appearance, and then get into the finale, because we are running short on time, and I do want to hit some fan theories and different things as well. So the big build up is the reveal of Ford, Stan's brother, who's the one that built the mystery shack. We find out the one that did all this stuff. We get a great story in the Tale of Two Stans, of seeing the brothers, like, growing up and, like, why they are the way they are. That Stan was basically kicked out the house for wrecking Ford's future, and he goes off and becomes a swindler across the country. He's kicked out of, like, every state, which is how he ends up where he is. Ford goes to a crappy college, but, like, basically tears through his exams and is basically funded to do whatever the hell he wants. And he wants to start studying anomalies, because he is the six-fingered man that created the journals. So he wants to start looking at anomalies, and finds that there's a massive amount of them appearing in Gravity Falls. Which I love that right before the finale we also find out that there's a UFO that crashed into Gravity Falls like millennia ago.
How you get that iconic arch?
Yeah, the arch that's got, like, the weird, like, cutout bits. It's because the freaking UFO came through it. And it's like, and he even hints of, like, that. I don't know if this landing here caused all this supernatural stuff, or if it was literally drawn here and crashed because of the supernatural thing already existing. But there's a UFO under your feet if you stand here. Let's go inside it.
Let's go look at some stuff real quick. Don't worry about it.
But you find out the whole thing of, this is when the story of, like, Bill Cipher really comes out, and what his plan really has been this whole time. Ooh, you went all blurry. Don't know what happened there. Your face just blurred out like crazy. Like, don't know what's going on. But that basically Bill made a connection with Ford. We also find out as well, which, by the way, in Society of the Blind Eye, which is a really awesome episode as well, that Ford's assistant was actually Fiddleford McGucket, the town cook, because he basically created a device that could erase his memory of all the horrible things he'd seen, but he was actually the assistant working with Ford. And Ford had made deals with Bill, and Bill was helping him with his research, until Ford found out that Bill's plan was basically, I'm going to use you to bring all my friends through from my dimension and rule yours, and just take it over and have basically a big party. And it's like, but it's going to be a party for us, it's going to be hell for you.
Yeah. It's pretty literally when it comes to pass, honestly.
Yeah, like, literally he ends up throwing a massive, like, rave for him and his friends, because it's utter chaos. But you find out about that, and that was the whole thing. Like, he then starts to get fearful of it, and that's how he ends up getting sucked into the portal, is that he calls Stan to take one of the journals, and then tells him, go away, take it and leave, and they end up fighting, and Ford gets pulled in there. And that's why Stan has been looking for the three journals to turn it back on, is to try and get Ford back after 30 years of him being trapped. Which is where the fan theory comes in, that what he was actually doing was he met Bill, and then spent most of those 30 years jumping through dimensions looking for a weapon that could kill him, because of how big a threat he is. And that's where the whole fan theory came, that actually he teamed up with Rick and Squanch and Bird Person, had been travelling through these universes, and part of his goal was to find a weapon to kill Bill.
That tracks.
You know, it's like, so it's kind of cool, like, reading that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I can buy into that. That makes sense, because he's been there for 30 years. Like, well, what's been going on for those 30 years? Well, why not? But he ends up coming back, and the whole thing is, you find out is Ford tears the thing apart. He doesn't want to let Bill through, but there's now a rift that he's managed to contain. And the whole episode we talked about Dipper and Mabel versus the future is all this fear of Mabel that the future's going to go horrible, that she's going to be left behind because Dipper's going to go and study with Ford, and she's going to become a teenager and everything's changing. Bill, who can't get them in the Mystery Shack because they've used unicorn hair to protect it, which another phenomenal episode. Don't have time to focus on it, but Mabel beats up a unicorn, which is kind of awesome.
The unicorn had it coming, 100%.
It really did. Such a jackass. It's like she deserved it. But Bill takes over Blendin Blandin, who they came across a couple of times, like the episode that Locke mentioned, and then again. But he uses him to get the rift from Mabel, who swaps bags with Dipper and smashes it, and it opens up the rift. It smells like hay now. Shut off the unicorn. And that begins what Ford referred to as Weirdmageddon. We're going to take a time to jump into Weirdmageddon here, and I will 100%. This is one of the best series finales I have ever seen.
Of any show.
This lives up to the hype of what it is. Like, Bill comes into the real world and causes utter chaos. He's entrapped in Gravity Falls, we end up finding out, because of it's like this bubble of weirdness around Gravity Falls. They can't leave. So his whole thing becomes trying to get into Ford's head to find a way out, because Ford has a metal plate, so Bill can't just enter his mind. He has to make a deal with him to enter. So that becomes the whole thing for Bill during this. But he unleashes so much hell in this. One of the most horrific things I have ever seen is right at the start, Pacifica's dad comes up and says, "I could be one of your horsemen of the apocalypse." Says, "Okay, how about I actually change all the functions of every hole in your face?" Clicks his fingers and everything changes and moves. And that vision of what his face looks like when Bill shuffles it still freaking haunts me today. That is terrifying.
It's so gross.
Followed by him dropping to the ground and screaming in fear and agony, and I'm like, oh, this just got real. This isn't a light thing anymore. This just got so real. Bill then starts sending out winged bats that start capturing townsfolk by turning them into stone. Releases bubbles of weirdness, which we get a great scene that comes up later of that, of every time you enter one, something happens. You get changed into this mad different worlds, mad different things, and some people just go full blown insane. And Mabel, who was the one that broke the rift, he traps inside her own bubble and locks it up on top of the mountain overhang we talked about. And it's oh my goodness, everything's just falling apart. It's it's all going to hell.
It's a very interesting episode too, though, when they break into that bubble to rescue Mabel, and it's literally just a full fantasy land of everything that Mabel would ever want it to be, including more reoccurring characters that you would never expect. I can't remember their names now.
Oh, Chad and Zyler.
Chad, is that what it is?
I think it's Chad and Zyler.
They're in Dreamscapers
or
some show up, right?
It might not be Chad, it might be something else, but one of them's Zyler. It's something in Zyler. But they're two buff, Californian, yo, what's going on, dude, sort of guys. And who
it's Kraz
and Zyler.
Real close.
Kraz and Zyler. And I'm they reoccur, they're the guys that are showing them around Mabel Land and stuff. It's so cool because basically it's a post-apocalyptic world. It's utter hell. Yeah, the 80s, dude, Collie.
Yeah.
The colourful hair and whoa, cool, man. All that sort of surfer hippie sort of look to them. Oh yeah, it's Collie 12 seconds. They're yeah, that's fine. You'll get us a little bit after it. But yeah, so it's really interesting where that episode's placed as well, because it totally throws you off, and I think it works in Weirdmageddon, because the whole first episode is basically Dipper. Ford gets captured. Very interestingly, I was just thinking about it the other day, gets turned into a gold statue as opposed to a stone one, which is really interesting because Bill, when he first appears, says to get in to remember to buy gold.
Yeah, and
And I
so
like,
does Stan.
yeah, that's another fan theory that I'm going to mention as well.
we'll
The fact that
come to
crosses
that,
over,
yeah.
but like the fact of like he turns him into gold. I never thought about it before. I was like, oh, he actually turns Ford into gold. Like apparently he does have a thing for gold. That's really weird.
Yeah. Well, he has a gold pyramid.
That's true. But basically, yeah, he captures Ford, destroys the 3 journals, and basically he almost kills Dipper. How Dipper survived that first shot. Like Ford takes a shot with a weapon and misses, and he like blows up the church spire that they're in. And like, how is Dipper alive? How in the world?
Yeah.
But like, he basically is on the run, and he finds Wendy, and the talk that we talked about earlier of Wendy and him, of like the combination of Dipper and Mabel. They go into the bubble, they find the bubble, they go there. It ends up with a whole big face-off with Little Gideon as well, which is really cool, because he's basically been made Bill's like lieutenant in charge of everything, and has his own like gang from the prison that are like road warriors now. It's all like Mad Max,
which was fantastic. I loved that.
I love it's all Mad Max, and then he is in like the folksiest cowboy outfit I've ever seen in my life. The light blue with the big white hat that goes over his hair and doesn't mess it up at all.
Yep.
Which also, as well, is like one of the highlights of that, is seeing not only Gideon like that, but then Wendy being at her most badass. And she is an amazing character throughout this, but she just wrecks these like full-blown prisoners. Literally kicks Gideon and launches him. She kicks him like a football and he flies.
Yeah. Which is real fun, because if you look at her family, her dad, of course, is the gigantic...
Oh, Manly Dan.
Yeah. Voiced by John DiMaggio. Bender.
Really? That's who voices Manly Dan? I did not know that one. That is Manly Dan, who's literally Manly, does like the Manly machine in the cafe and like uses his pinky and it like blows up. It's like, but yeah, that makes sense. And I love the whole thing of like why she's so good. It's like, yeah, my dad used to make us do apocalypse training instead of Christmas. And then the conversation moves on, and it's like, no, I need an explanation for that one.
Let's go back to that for a second. Yeah.
But yeah, so they go into Mabel World, which is like literally this world that Bill has designed, that instead of being as freakish as everything else, like, is utterly Mabel's dream world where everything can happen and they'll never want to leave.
Yeah.
And
bright, bubbly, cartoony, 80s dudes, flying cats, rainbows, candy.
And it takes
12-year-old girl dream, basically.
Yeah, and it takes Dipper to break through to her and to show her that reality's better, and then of course it turns on them and they escape and all that, which leads to them going back to the Mystery Shack, where Stan is basically held up, and a whole bunch of other characters and creatures we've met throughout the 2 seasons have all shown up to hide, because it's the only place that can't be touched by Bill's weirdness because of the unicorn hair.
Yep.
Which leads into probably my favourite of the 4 parts, of which they actually call Take Back the Falls, and basically using McGucket, who is the crazy genius who started to get his mind back and has built like crazy ass stuff throughout the show so far. Basically
like a Loch Ness Monster. Yeah,
basically turns the Mystery Shack into like a freaking like Voltron Megazord looking thing with a whole bunch of throwbacks itself on it to go and take on Bill and his minions. And one of the most epic scenes ever, when the rock version of the Gravity Falls theme plays and the Mystery Shacktron takes on all these creatures that Bill brought through. And I'm like, every time I watch that scene and that music plays, I cannot help but get hyped. Goosebumps, man. It's so exciting. And then just the way that even continues with the fact of like, okay, Bill's like, I need to do this myself. You know, like Ford gets excited and cheers for the kids, and he realises, okay, I can't torture you and get in your head, so what if I take out the kids? Goes out to fight them, and he can't touch the shack. It's still protected by the unicorn here, so... Which leads to another horrific scene, I don't know how it's in a Disney XD show, of literally a T-Rex that's used as one of the arms. Go watch the show, context for that's in there.
It is.
Bites and rips out Bill Cipher's eye. And I'm like, there's no blood, there's no gore to it, but like, holy crap!
Yeah.
It's like, oh my goodness. Like, how did you get away with this?
It's me even without the gore.
Yeah, it's like, oh, how did you get away with that in a Disney XD show? And then they all go in to free the townspeople. They all, like, very cool, they get launched out the Mystery Shack and, like, land in the pyramid using sweaters that Mabel has made as, like, parachutes. which is like awesome. To free the townspeople, and they start the whole ritual, which is the whole big wheel we talked about of each of the parts represent somebody in the town. And it goes from stuff like Dipper being the pine tree, Mabel is a shooting star, Stan's like hat, the symbol that's on that, the question mark that's on Seuss's shirt, which we've like been mentioning Seuss throughout this whole thing, by the way, one of the best characters in the whole thing. Seuss is amazing.
Yep.
Did not realise until like midway through season 2 that he's called Seuss because his name is Jesus. I was like, just thought Seuss was a name and like just rolling with it. And it's like, I love the fact it's like, no, it's
a cartoon. People get names. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's like, no, it's actually short for our actual name. Like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Like, this is meant to be some mystical thing that can take down Bill, and it includes people that you never expect. Like Little Gideon's one of the members in the circle. Robbie and Wendy and Pacifica.
One of them. I just was saying Pacifica's one of them.
Yeah, Pacifica's one of them. Is like McGucket's one of them. Both Stans, like Ford and Stan, are like some of them. Like basically a lot of the main characters, most of the main cast that we have seen throughout these 2 seasons and that are important in some sort of way, are the ones that are needed almost. And it's almost cool because like when Ford's describing that he found this, it's almost like this was designed to defeat Bill, so he had to be beaten at this moment in time with these people. But that doesn't go to plan.
Of course not.
Stan and Ford, who have been fighting, which that's one of the things that I said to you before we came on. One of my big like things that I don't like about the season is that as soon as Ford comes around, Stan, who has been honestly a badass throughout this show, like literally in season 2 episode 1, he is like punching zombies with brass knuckles. Like he is like getting stuck in there, and he becomes almost this like standoffish coward the second half of the season when Ford's around. And I'm like, I get you're trying to create an issue with them, but like it doesn't feel natural to me.
That was one of the few things that didn't play well.
But like their whole argument stuff continues to that point because he's really mad at Ford. That Ford's not thanked him for saving his life and stuff, and the two of them end up in a childish bickering match, which allows Bill to defeat the Mystery Shack and get back in there. And another horrific thing when you actually think about it, turns all of the characters apart from both sets of Pines twins into banners that he hangs in the pyramid, and it's like, oh, that's kind of horrific.
Very, very unsettling.
Which leads to the Pines twins facing off with him. Stan and Ford are still bickering, and at least the great moment of Dipper and Mabel. I love the fact how Mabel like throws him off guard. He's like, maybe I'll just kill the twins, sprays him in the eye with like spray paint, which is hysterical. Like this is all powerful interdimensional being has literally just been blinded by a 12-year-old girl with a can of spray paint. They enlarge the cage they're in so that they can escape and start running through the pyramid, literally having Bill Cipher on his heels chasing them, as mad as he's ever been in this horrific looking pyramid thing, chasing them through it, and they're escaping. It's like, it's so cool. It is so well done. Like you actually have that moment where you're like, these two 12-year-old kids are literally about to beat this god. Like it's insane.
Okay, but this is going to take my whole camera, but I'm going to throw it up here real quick. We've talked a lot about the wheel, especially.
Oh, have you got a picture?
Yeah. Here's
yeah. So you see it there. So like all the different characters on it are represented by different symbols. So like starting at the top then, so like, the question mark is Seuss because that's the shirt he wears throughout the show. The bag of ice, Ford describes as it has to be someone that's cool under pressure, which ends up being Wendy. The fish sort of symbol is Stan's symbol, obviously. Pine tree is Dipper. The star is Lil Gideon. The hand is Ford. The llama ends up being Pacifica because that ends up being the sweater that she's wearing that Mabel makes for a bunch of them, different sweaters. The shooting star is Mabel. The heart with it's kind of sewn in half is Robbie because that's the sweatshirt he wears all the time. And then the glasses is Fiddlebird McGucket because it's meant to represent someone scholarly. And this is meant to be the wheel that can allow them to unlock something to defeat Bill. We never find out what that is, what it was actually meant to do to him, because it gets taken apart. But how they actually defeat him is so cool, because Ford and Stan end up swapping places, and an amazing twist because Stan says, "What if I put him in my mind? What if he's like?" Ford's like, "He won't want it. He wants the information that's in mine." So they literally trade places, and Bill makes a deal with Stan, goes into his mind, and then they use the memory erase gun from the Society of the Blind Eye to wipe out everything that's Stan. And we get this amazing face-off between Stan and Bill in his head, which, as much as I hate the character change that they do to Stan, like halfway through the season, it's like, this is Stan at his best.
Yep.
As much as he's this crotchety old man who pretends that he doesn't give a damn about anything except for money, he's like, no, I'm going to happily sacrifice myself because you dared to mess with my family.
Yep.
And it's like, and ends up like literally as his mind's being erased, punching Bill out of existence. It's such a cool moment.
It really is. That's another thing we never touched on, but I guess tangentially related to the rock version of the theme during the final battle between the Mystery Shack and the monsters. The sound design in this show is absolutely phenomenal as well.
Yeah, it's so good.
And it really hits home during this sequence because it's got that very sad version of the theme playing in the background.
Yeah, it's so, like, you get it to build up to that moment of Stan erasing himself for 2 seasons. It's just so cool. You are completely invested, and then the sorrow that the family feel after it when they realise Stan's gone, which, you know, spoilers, he comes back. Because it's a Disney XD show, they're not going to end it with Stan being erased, even though, like, that doesn't make sense. He should be gone, there should be no way for that to come back. It's like, they're not going to end it like that. They have to end on some sort of happy note with it.
It's bittersweet, honestly. Stan does come back, but, like, it's immediately after that we get the say goodbye sequence.
Yeah, well, that's it. We get back, and then it's like the summer's done, and the whole thing has been happening over the summer, and they have to say,
go home now.
They have to say goodbye to everyone, and that's a heartbreaking scene, watching them say goodbye to everybody, and then realizing it. And, you know, although there's some funny moments, like the fact that Stan decides, I can't stand seeing Mabel cry, she's taking Waddles with her, I'm not keeping this damn pig here. I'm just like, he's getting on the bus, like, your parents are dealing with this pig, and I'm like, just because, like, I don't want to see Mabel cry. It's like, it's so well done. And then obviously we get
Dipper
a nice
and Wendy trading hats.
Yeah, we get the nice moment of Dipper and Wendy trading hats, and then she gives him a note which is a "See you next summer" written on it that he opens on the bus. It's signed by everybody. You know, that nice little hint of this isn't the end. There's more to come. There's more stories next summer. You know, you can always come back to Gravity Falls, and it's a really cool finale. It's a really awesome ending to it. And
one of the really wonderful parts of that wrap up is also, you mentioned a minute ago, we didn't even have time to touch on Seuss really.
Yes, it's a story.
Stan and Ford decide they're gonna reconcile their relationship and, you know, sail off on the boat.
Yeah, because they were going to sail as kids.
Yeah,
as kids they were going to sail around the world, and they said, you know what, we're going to do that because some of the weirdness that Bill created is still here and it's still traveling the world. So, and he says to Stan, I need someone to travel with me to stop it. I want it to be you. So the two of them decide, and it's a really great heartfelt moment between the brothers that finally puts everything to rest for them.
Yep. And then we also get Stan handing over the Mystery Shack to Seuss,
which is like his utter dream. He adores Stan, and we find out in other episodes that that's because he basically met Stan as a kid and has always looked up to him like a father. And so to be handed the Mystery Shack is like a dream come true to him. Like, it's such an awesome moment for him.
And it's a real fun, subtle payoff, too, because in one of the earlier episodes, he puts on Stan's hat. I think it's the one where they're doing the mirror maze with the
yeah.
And he's like, don't be ridiculous, Seuss. It'll never happen.
Yeah.
And then he gives him the hat at the end, and then you get the sequence, obviously, of Seuss running the shack wearing the hat. And it's like, oh, Seuss.
Yeah, he's like wearing the suit that Stan used to wear, the eye patch and the hat on. He goes into the whole Mr. Mystery thing. It's like, it's such a good payoff for all the characters. Like, you feel like everything's paid off so well. It's so cool. And it ends on a great note like that, because like, you literally feel like you went on a journey, and it's like there's a satisfying conclusion that you know they were meant to get to.
It's open for more if that was ever a thing that they could or wanted to do, but it's not left open in such a way that we're left going, no, you need to answer these questions. Like, everything important in the show gets wrapped up at some point, which is just so rare.
Absolutely, it's done so well. And with the little time we've got left, though, since that's the end of the show, I do want to talk about a lot of the fan theories around this show, and I'm not going to have you in suspense anymore, Locke, because I know I mentioned this at the start of the thing, and you've been waiting for me to tell you that apparently,
I gotta know.
Apparently, there was another storyline for season 2, and it ended up not happening. I think it ended up being it was too dark or something. Like, I don't know entirely how true it is for this, but from what the sources I've read, it seems to be like this is the case. This was what the story was going to be at one point. And the story was that during episode 1 of season 2, Dipper was going to come across a version of himself, an older version, that was going to come out of the forest, injured, badly wounded, dying, and telling him that Mabel was dead. And that it was going to lead to basically that Dipper had came back from, I believe it was going to end up being the face-off with Bill, and that Mabel had been killed. And since she had been killed, Dipper had been spending the years since then, now to his older age, trying to get back to warn himself about it so that we can try and change the future and save Mabel.
That's wild.
Like, whether that was what was going to happen at one point, I don't think it was a long-running thing of what would happen, because they wouldn't have got away with it. At the very least, if it's a fan theory, like, it's insane, but it's one of the ones that I read was apparently a plan for season 2 at one point.
I do remember reading something very vague about that being a thing that was supposed to supposedly happen at some point.
Yeah, they never got the chance to go ahead with it, but that'd have been a really, like, I mean, it would have changed the course of season 2, but, like, that was one of the running theories at one point, was apparently in the face-off with Bill, Mabel gets killed, and Dipper can't handle it, and spends the years after it studying to create how to make time travel, which he obviously knows, having met Blendon, that it exists. But you can't just, like, randomly meet a time agent person and use their thing. That doesn't just always happen. So he ends up trying to create his own way to get back and warn himself about it to try and change the future. I almost
have to wonder if that was going to be like the backdoor explanation for the time agents.
Like, that's how it ended up being created and stuff.
Yeah, that Dipper creating it is what led them to exist in the future.
It would have been an interesting thing. There's a lot of theories of stuff that never came. Another great fan theory around Dipper that I love, that I almost kind of prefer to the one we actually got, was that the theory was going to be that the author of the journals was actually Dipper.
From the future?
That future Dipper ends up writing the journals and somehow gets them back in time, and that's where he finds the journals, is it's actually him that wrote them. Which, looking at how Dipper's character plays out, I'm like, it makes sense that he could be somebody that would eventually write these. I don't know how that was going to play out and what the theory was to make that, like, function as a story, but that was apparently, like, a fan theory at one point of, like, what if Dipper was the author this whole time? Like, the author he was looking for was himself.
I do think that maybe that would have been a little bit more satisfying to explain some of the other stuff that, now that I think, I just said a minute ago all of the major mysteries are answered satisfactorily, but really not all of them, because what's the origin of the wheel?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, some of the...
Where did that come from? It's like, why is it in the journals? And I'm like, well, it would make sense that if Dipper had seen it and seen what happened with Bill, that he would then write the journals and put it in the journals and create them himself. Like, it turns out, like, the hand is just the symbol that he saw in the books. That's why he puts it on there, to keep the cycle going. It's not a big six-fingered mystery. But, like, he ends up, like, being a self-fulfilling prophecy.
And so that's exactly why I think it would have been a little bit more satisfactory to go that route. Because that does beg the question of how some of the rest of that stuff exists in the universe anyway. I mean, it's very much a chicken and egg thing, like, what came first, the weirdness or the documentation of the weirdness.
And the cool thing about it is, like we said for the last theory, like, we've already introduced the the time paradox association. It's like they're the ones they've already shown that time travel's a thing, so is it completely out of the cuff that he somehow is able to find a way to time travel and put them back? Specifically putting back Journal 3 where Dipper eventually finds it, because it's clearly that's been in there for a long time when Dipper finds the book in episode 1.
Yeah.
That he somehow goes back and puts it there and sets up everything to happen to eventually lead himself to writing the journals, because Bill destroys them.
Yeah, that also begs a very interesting question that I hadn't really considered until now. Stan's been like working around Gravity Falls and the Mystery Shack itself for 30 years trying to find all this stuff, specifically looking for that journal. Dipper, by some weird happenstance, happens to stumble across it right away.
He happens to find
it for 30 years.
He's hanging up signs in the forest and just happens to find the tree that has a lever that opens up the hole that the book's buried in. How would that get there unless Dipper was the one that put it there, knowing that he would find it there as a kid?
Yeah. I mean, even setting the fan theory aside, that's like, for the show, the setup had to exist, and so maybe it's definitely one of those, just don't question it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I almost wish that was what had happened, because like, in my head, I'm like, I actually really prefer the whole thing of Dipper being, because I love Dipper, he's probably my favourite character in the whole show, like, I completely love Dipper and the story arc that he goes on. That would be really satisfying for me, of like, that he's actually the author that he's been looking for all this time, the person he's been looking for, and that he's essentially trying to model himself after and look up to actually ends up being him. And it plays into the whole theory as well, of the fact of like, you are more than the journals because the journals came from you.
Yeah.
You're the special one, and then you wrote the books that you thought you were getting all this from. Like, no, it's always been you.
What I do love about the way they did wrap things up is that I would actually argue it's not impossible that is still true. Because, as you pointed out, Bill destroys the journals. But if Dipper goes on from that summer to recreate them and then go back in time and hide them himself, like, whatever happens to the originals, who knows? Maybe they were never hidden in those places in the first place. You know what I mean? But like, that's an interesting thought. I mean, the only thing that doesn't really support that, I guess, is that Dipper never really got his hands on Journal 1 at all. Like, he had it at one point, obviously, but never enough to like learn it. Certainly not enough to learn it well enough to rewrite it.
Well, that's the thing that we were kind of talking about as well, though. Like, there's clearly stuff that happens that we don't get to see, like the whole like him fighting the vampire bat thing. So it's like, you really think he knows that those 3 journals are sitting in his house and he's not finding a chance to pour over the other 2? So he knows Journal 3 inside and out by the time the show ends. Like, he's like poured over that so much. Like, but then again, like, does he need to look over the journals if he's writing about his own experiences?
That's true.
Time travel logic would state that whatever he writes down is what was in the journal in the first place, so he doesn't technically need to read it, he's just writing them. It's like, it was a really cool fan theory, and that's really there was one more Dipper fan theory, and it's like, this one doesn't match up as well as I thought, but it kind of ties into another big fan theory that a lot of people kind of have. One of the big theories was that it was going to be a weird kind of transition of that Dipper actually becomes Bill. Bill is another version of Dipper, and I almost got it in my head. Like, it almost resonates with me with an old Marvel Comics storyline of like from Young Avengers. One of the teammates there is Iron Lad, who's from the future, and he ends up finding out that he actually becomes Kang the Conqueror. And it was almost that sort of thing of like, well, it's the younger version fighting off what he's going to become. But it's also kind of fitting because, well, who's best to defeat him if not me, because I am him. And close your own loop. That one I don't think works as well as the whole him as the author. But the other theory that's linked to that might actually have been a good part to do a movie or a series on was the fan theory that Bill is still in Stan's head.
Yes. Because I don't see how he could not be, based on the way things close.
The whole point of erasing Stan was to get rid of Bill. If Stan somehow survived that and got his memories back, and it's not even like he got some of his memories back, they basically like, no, he's fully recovered. Is basically the theory is Stan isn't there.
That's just Bill now?
It's Bill, but he's got access to Stan's memories, so he's just playing along. And it's like, he's playing along, he's playing into the role, but doing what Bill does.
Well,
we said right at the start, biding his time.
so with that, I find that one to be very plausible, in no small part because of this.
Yes, the real life thing. Yes, 100%.
Yeah. Post the end of the show, a whole bunch of stuff was found in an ARG where you could find this real life statue of Bill Cipher. And like he's got, you can barely see it here. He's got his hand outstretched. You could go to the statue and shake hands with it, just like in the show.
It's based exactly like that's how Bill looks at the end of the show. Like when he shakes and makes a deal with Stan, like that's the statue that's standing there, and the one that's left in the forest of Gravity Falls when the pyramid's gone. And Alex recreates it, and it looks just like he did at the end of that. It was such a cool thing that was a real world thing.
But with that, the fan theory that I saw around that goes even further to say not just is Stan Bill now, but that Stan has always
been Bill. That was the other part I was going to say. Is like, yeah, a lot of it based upon, I think, two major bits of dialogue from what I've seen were like the main points. Was one we already mentioned was the buy gold. Like Stan, which I'd like to point out, Bill is freaking nuts. So when he says it to Gideon, it's in the midst of this whole thing of like the world being an illusion, nothing exists, nothing matters. Don't forget to buy gold, bye, and disappears. Bill's insane. Stan says it when in the episode when Wendy and Robbie break up. Like Stan takes Dipper there to go and tell this truth to Wendy, and the two of them break up and all that. That bit doesn't matter. Out of nowhere, he's standing at the van to Robbie and he says, out of nowhere, Stan has never said this at any other point in the show, and goes, you remember to buy gold, right? Like you remember to invest in gold. Out of nowhere, the only other character that says it is Bill. Stan has never mentioned it before, and the other one for it is the nickname that they both have for Ford. Stan and Bill both call Ford Sixer because of his 6 fingers. They both call him Sixer, and they're the only two characters in the whole of Gravity Falls that call him that. No one else ever refers to Ford as Sixer. So the fan theory is that Bill is in there, and that somehow Bill and Stan have always been together. Bill has always been there.
I would really, really love to see that get explored, no matter the medium. Do it in a comic book. I don't care. I want to know.
That was the Gravity Falls movie I wanted to see. Was Dipper and Mabel return to Gravity Falls? You can have them like write to Stan and Ford and bring them back, so they come back for a big reunion with everyone at Gravity Falls. And Bill has been playing the long game, and that's it. He chooses a moment of whatever you want to set up that allows him to be free, that, hey, I've actually been back this whole time. Ever since Stan got his memories back, guess what? It brought me back too. Because the whole point was Stan's memory was erased, so Bill was erased, and I'm like, well, if his memory came back, what's stopping Bill come back?
Yeah.
There you go. There's your movie. You're one off. You don't need to do another series. You can do a mini series or a movie, and have them square off with Bill again, because that's been the long thing that everyone's wondered: is Bill totally gone? Can he be totally gone? And I'm like, well, there's your answer. No, he's still around.
Yeah. I highly recommend. Now the statue at this point is long since gone. They moved it somewhere else.
I was so gutted when I found out about that was been a thing and they'd moved it.
Ready to go.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to go see the Bill Cipher statue.
But what allowed people to find it was a whole ton of stuff. Like I mentioned, it was a full ARG, like multiple steps, and they had like puzzle pieces and audio recordings and flash drives and maps.
And this was before ARGs were a massive thing. Like a lot of people have done ARGs at this point. There's been a ton of real world ARGs. But like this is this was really
an early adopter.
Yeah. This was back at the beginning when very few people were doing stuff like this.
I highly recommend, even though you can't get the full payoff and go find the statue now, I highly recommend, especially once everybody has finished watching the series, go look up all the stuff about this ARG, because they have copies of everything that came out of it, and you could read it for yourself and kind of look over all the facts and the data. But like one of the ones that's always been very compelling to me was that there was an audio clip that is very clearly Stan's voice singing the song that Bill sings to Ford when he turns into a statue.
Meet again.
And it also plays over the ending credits of the last episode, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, augmented reality game?
Yeah.
Alternate reality game? I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what ARG stands for. But basically, it's a whole bunch of codes and ciphers.
Alternate reality game.
It's a whole bunch of codes and ciphers you work out, and it leads you, usually from a fictional thing like a game or a TV show or a movie, and brings it into the real world. Like, everybody gets in that train now. Freaking, there was a whole thing about a FNAF possible doing one that got Game Theory in trouble. There was a one that was freaking like Fortnite done one a couple of years ago. You know, it's like there's been a whole bunch of them. But as far as I know, Gravity Falls was like one of the first people I ever heard about doing one.
Kali, some of them have apps that tie into it. Some of them are just like. So one of the really cool things about Gravity Falls is at the end of every episode's credits, there is a cipher of some sort, and it just translated into some sort of phrase. And so it started with something like that, and I feel like it was even in the journal. Yeah, okay, hold on. I'm going to take the dust cover. Actually, cross your camera doesn't screw it up. Can you look at the inside flap of the front dust cover?
Yeah. Here's the inside of the dust cover.
There's that too, which I completely forgot was in there.
Yeah, this is the dust cover off of it, by the way. This is the front of the book. This is what's inside.
But I mean this part, the part with the blurb.
The blurb. Ah.
Yeah, where it says, "Hey guys." Yeah. There you go. So if you look real close, it says, "Hey guys, I'm Alex Hirsch. The C in Hirsch is blue."
Yeah.
So if you read through the whole paragraph, those blue characters will spell out a word or a phrase. I can't remember what it says now. I think it was a cipher even too. So it's like CTAY. WERD.
Yeah, like STAY.
Yeah, so it's got to be some sort of cipher, and it may have started with the Journal 3. I don't remember exactly where it started, but it was something like that. It was something real world where there was a code, and that code like would point. I think the first one pointed to somebody to a geocache, like a buried box at specific geographic coordinates, and inside the box was a flash drive with some files, and then the files themselves had to be decrypted, and they pointed to like a website, and then the website pointed to a file that was part of a puzzle, and then the puzzle pointed to some other, you know what I mean? Like it just had multiple steps that were all over the place, that were both in and out of the internet.
Yeah, it was so well, which it just adds into the whole thing of this show. Then to create something like that, I'm like, I can totally believe Alex Hirsch come up with something like that, because the whole show is so well laid out and so thought out well that of course this happened. Of course, like all the little ciphers that don't really mean anything, that are just little codes you can get at the end of every episode, that just usually just give a message of something that happened in the episode. You know, it's just a daft little thing. End up going, wait, this is an actual thing now. We can uncode some of these, and oh wait, these codes lead to other things, which lead to other things, which lead to other, and eventually like all stay weird. That was it. I was missing a couple of letters.
Yeah.
I was missing a couple of letters. That's why it wasn't making sense.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what you get when you're trying to read it super fast when you're on a podcast. It doesn't work.
But so that may not have actually been relevant to the ARG itself, but it's stuff like that. I mean, the Da Vinci Code did that too, actually.
Yeah, but there's stuff like that.
To the Da Vinci Code spelled out a code that was relevant to the plot of the book.
Yeah, but that's it. There's stuff like that all over for the Gravity Falls stuff. Like they leaned heavily into the mystery aspect of it, and they got the fans invested and involved, and like there's stuff to unlock, there's stuff to work out, and it was so well done. Like I really wish that Bill Cipher statue was still there. I really wish. I would love to have gone and seen it and got my picture next to Bill.
I'm so mad that I didn't find the show until after that was already
I know. Like, gone. See, when I learned that was a thing, I thought, oh, that's so cool. And and it's gone. I'm like, really? I mean, don't get me wrong. It was uncoded like amazingly quick. Like the whole fans of Gravity Falls came together to work it out together. Excuse me. It was so cool. But Yeah, Collie, absolutely. You need to check out some of the fan theories, and some of the fan theories for this show are amazing. Because a lot of these fan theories, people were already creating theories in this show from the beginning, because the whole mystery around Stan, what's happening, what's the mystery behind the journals, what's the whole stuff with Bill, like how does this all fit together, all of it people were theorising the whole time. So the fact that the show finished, like, of course the theories continued. Of course people kept going into it and delving into it, and some of them, like I said, make sense, and actually I prefer to the actual answers we got in the show, like Older Dipper being the one that wrote the journals, or like Stan has still got Bill inside his head, and that's going to be
There we go. That's a better one.
You know, and like,
I don't know what happened to that first link.
I don't know, just something went off and decided, nah, I'm not going to put the rest of it up. But you know, like the Bill's still in Stan's head, or Older Dipper wrote the journals, or different stuff like that. Like, I love these fan theories, and I'm like, in my head, like, this stuff is canon. Like, I prefer Dipper writing the journals over Ford being revealed 100%. As much as I love J.K. Simmons, and as much as he does an amazing job, Dipper being the author is a lot more satisfying to me as an answer. You know, and...
Well, and you wouldn't even have had to get rid of J.K. Simmons. He could have been Older Dipper.
Yeah, like, because Dipper's 12. He's not went through puberty yet. I don't know what he sounds like when he's in his 50s. He could have sounded like J.K. Simmons, like... You know what I mean? Because imagine Dipper freaking out, realising, like, the person I've been looking for this whole time is me. Like, that's insane. Like, because you don't even need them to, like, meet paths. You just need, like, one of the journals, like him to find Journal 1 and to find a message. Like, do a cipher. Dipper finds a coded message in it, and, like, and just him, like, that's the end of an episode right there. Him find a coded message and tell Mabel, I think I wrote the journals. Boom. Cliffhanger. There you go. Then your next episode, instead of A Tale of Two Stands, is literally in the future Older Dipper writing the journals and what took him to that point. Like, it'd have been so cool.
Yeah, I would have loved that. That would have been cool.
But anyway, yeah, that's kind of half my headcanon now. Like, looking back on it, I'm kind of like, yeah, I prefer that. But the Bill and Stan stuff, I still stand by. That's headcanon for me. Like, Bill's in there. Bill's one.
No, I totally.
Whether or not he's always been there, I don't know. But at the very least, he's there now. He's in Stan's head, 100%.
I'm 1,000% on board with you. I completely agree.
But yeah, but that was kind of it. I don't know if you've got any other, like, fan theories or anything headcanon.
No, I mean, we very fitting for this one. I believe it's 1N. I can never remember, but I'm pretty sure it's 1N.
It's a canon.
I think the 2 N's is the blow stuff up one, right?
I think so. I want to say yes. I don't entirely know, to be honest.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah.
But no, really, the only major fan theory I ever really heard and bought into heavily was Stan Cipher.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of cool theories out there, but yeah, that one always seemed very plausible. Because I literally asked that question myself when I watched the show. Like, how do you get Stan back without Bill coming back? That was the whole point of wiping his memory.
Mm-hmm.
I have no doubt. I have no
good moment. Don't get me wrong, but
I have no doubt that Disney went, no, you can't have him not have his memory back and end the show on that, because your next moment is them leaving, which is already a sad moment too. Like, no, you have to give them something. We have to have some sort of high note after Weirdmageddon.
I would be really interested to find out if that's the case. Like, if Stan getting his memory backs was memories. Well, I would be real interested to know if Stan getting his memory back was studio interference, or if that was the plan all along.
Yeah, I'd be intrigued to know.
He said he wanted to wrap at the end of season 2, but he wasn't, like, he didn't. I can't remember how he phrased it, but basically he said, I knew this was where we wanted to end, but I wasn't committed to saying never again.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's it as well, because I wonder if Stan getting his memories back was a purposeful thing, because, like you said, like, maybe he wanted to leave it open because he wasn't sure if he was gonna come back. You know, he didn't know if we were going to come back and do another story. He didn't know if we were going to come back and do another tale.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, they haven't.
That's why I just have to mention in chat, like, Smalls is, like, not Englishing well today. It's not going well.
That's a Bob's Burgers joke. There's an episode that's a knockoff of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
Oh.
And I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but basically Tina teaches Bob all the lore of My Little Pony, but accidentally gives him a book of her fan stuff.
Oh no.
Not fan theory, fan fiction. And Bob memorizes it as if it's part of it. And so when she realizes that, she panics and is like, she comes running into the living room and yells, "Non-canonical, non-canonical!" And Jean looks at her and goes, "Are you trying to say nautical?"
That is awesome.
It's good stuff. It's a great... Actually, that's a really good standalone episode. You really don't need a lot of background for the show to watch that one. Highly recommend you guys check it out.
I'll need to check it out. I need to get into Bob's Burgers. I tried to get into it before, and I don't know what sidetracked me from it. I just never kept going with it, but I need to get back into Bob's Burgers.
I'm going to level. The first season is not great. I'm glad I toughed it out because the show gets exponentially better past that, and there are a lot of really memorable moments in the first season that carry forward in the show, but the show really doesn't find its footing that well until the second season. Like,
I'm glad I know that. I'm willing to tough it out now that I know that, because season 1 I'm like, this is feeling like a slog to get through. It was the same it was the same when I started watching Clone Wars as well. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, you need to watch Clone Wars, it's so amazing," and I watched season 1 and I'm like, I can't finish this. Is this what everyone's praising everyone about? Like, this is like so boring and not great. And like, push through, it gets better, and I'm like, and it did. Got to the start of season 2 and Cad Bane showed up and automatically the show got better.
There you go. I tried for a long time to get Not So Silent Bob into Bob's Burgers because he and I are both huge fans of H. John Benjamin, who does the voice of Bob in Bob's Burgers. He's also the main voice of Archer in Archer.
Oh yeah.
He's Coach McGurk in Home Movies. Like, he's in a ton of stuff. He's a really great voice actor. But I love
that. Just blew my mind that Bob and Archer have got the same voice actor. I'm like, how did I not piece that together? Like, I know what both their voices sound like. How did I not realize that?
What's great is that, like, he never does any voice other than his own either. Like, if you hear him talk, like, that's just him.
That's amazing.
But I tried real hard to get Kevin into Bob's Burgers, and he's like, I hate it. The kids are annoying. It's not good. I don't like it. And then one day, he was completely out of other shows to watch, and he's like, quietly to himself, he's like, I'll give it another shot because Locke loves it so much. And he watched through the first season and got into the second, and now he's almost as hooked on it as I am.
Nice.
Like, I don't think he'd necessarily say it's one of his favorite of all times, but he does love it. He and I talk about the new episodes when they come out. We went together to go see the movie. Like,
okay,
the first season can be a bit of a slog, but if you can get past it and get into the second season, I think it gets a lot better from that point forward. Okay,
that's my goal then, is to binge through Bob's Burgers and push into the good stuff, and then we'll get you back on, and you and I'll have a Bob's Burgers episode.
Oh yes, please, because there's fan theories galore for that one.
Oh, I can imagine. But awesome, we'll definitely do that. But I think that's kind of it for us for Gravity Falls today. I don't have anything else major to kind of mention. Which we need to wrap up the show, but there's so many amazing stuff that we've not talked about. So many great episodes we've not been able to touch on. Like, I didn't think we were going to like take this long going over the basic main story. Like, we didn't get to go fully into like the Manor, the Northwest Manor episode. We didn't get to talk about one of my other favourite episodes, like the Summerween Trickster and stuff like that, and like some of these phenomenal episodes. That's such a good one.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is we need to do a follow-up episode at some point.
We need to do a follow-up
on a handful of specific episodes.
Yeah, we need to do like an episode where you and I get together and we pick like what are our top 5 like Gravity Falls episodes and deep dive them and get into some of them, because like we have just not had enough time. We have been talking about this for 2 hours, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface, to be completely honest. We got through the main story, and that's about it. Yeah, massive shout out to GC, Colin. I'm glad he mentioned to you we were talking about this and you stopped by. Like, Gravity Falls is 100% in my top 5 shows. 100%. It's right up there. Like, I adore this show so much. If you have for some reason sat for the last 2 hours and listened to us spoil everything and not watched it yet, I don't know why you would have done that, but like, we told you go watch it and come back. But like, if you for some reason have still not seen it and listened to us, go watch it. I promise you, we have not done it justice.
Oh no,
we have not done it justice. We have not covered half, quarter of the amazing stuff, like the deep dive talk has to happen because there's so many amazing episodes with so many amazing stuff happening, so many great stories, so many great characters. We didn't touch on half the characters. Like, we barely mentioned Seuss, who's like one of the main characters. It's like, we need to do another episode on this. If you've not watched it, this is your shout out. Go watch it. If you've watched it already, time for a rewatch. Go. Get Disney Plus up, watch it now. I am probably going to do that in the near future, is sit and watch through it again, because I'm hyped for it now.
I might just start back over. I hit the beginning of season 2 and I got busy and I got sidetracked and I haven't gone back, so I might just start over.
Yeah. And there you go, Collie. Collie's got like 2 episodes left from their second watch through. Go for it. Just this is the perfect night.
Do it.
This is your subconscious telling you it's time to finish watching it. Go watch it now. But thank you so much for coming on and talking to me about this log. It's like, because honestly, trying to find someone that's watched the show and has a love for it like I do has been like so hard. I have been pestering Jay, go watch Gravity Falls. We need to watch Gravity Falls. We need to watch Gravity Falls. And it's like, it's just not happening.
Smalls to watch it all with me too.
Smalls, go watch it. This is your goal. Watch it. Binge it this week. I need to know. Report back to me next weekend.
We'll watch through it together.
Yeah, that's something I've not done actually. Smalls mentioning it there. It's like the Lost Legends comic and stuff like that. I don't actually own them. I need to pick them up. I don't have any of the Gravity Falls comics or anything, and it's like I 100% need to get them.
Samesies.
It's just getting proper Gravity Falls merch. Even the comics is like so hard now. It's impossible to find them.
You're welcome, Collie.
And Lost Legends books added to the wish list. We're just giving Collie a shopping list to go away and come back with. But it has been a pleasure having you on, sir. Thank you so much. And we will definitely... It's
always my pleasure to be here.
Definitely getting you back on at some point in the near future so we can do a deep dive. So start having a look at your favourite episodes. I'll look at mine, ones that we... Like, it's going to be one of those episodes of talking about, like, if you're going to introduce someone to Gravity Falls, what are the must-watch episodes? You know, I know 2 of mine already are the Northwest Manor and the Summerween Trickster that I mentioned. Those are definitely 2 of my top 5. Easy. Like, I would happily watch them over and over. They're so good.
I'm going to have to decide what angle to come at it from, because there are some that are just good. Like, period. Like, they're good, fun episodes. But then there are other ones where it's like, there's all this subtle importance in them. Like, The Inconveniencing. 5th episode of season 1, out of nowhere. They have that dog that speaks backwards.
Yeah.
Totally says Stan is not what he seems.
Yeah.
Like right away they're laying groundwork, and it's like, oh, how do you pick now?
Yeah. Well, let's do it for we'll do it for a headcanon thing of like, what do what's important to you? What ones do you honestly enjoy watching the most? Because we'll cut out, like, you're not allowed to put stuff like Weirdmageddon on there or stuff like that, because that's his whole other thing, and we covered a lot of the Weirdmageddon stuff here. Like, that's his own thing. That's the equivalent of, like, I've almost said, like, that's the equivalent of, like, saying, who's your favourite character in Avatar? No, you can't say Uncle Iroh because he's everybody's favourite. Who's your other favourite character? You know, it's like, you can't say Weirdmageddon's one of your favourite episodes. Everyone loves Weirdmageddon. What's your other favourite episodes? You know, what episodes do you, like, do you get excited about thinking watching? Like, if you see, like, if I see Summerween coming up, or if I see, like, the Northwest Manor coming up in my watch list as the next episode, I get excited. I like, yes, we're finally at that episode. Like, that sort of feeling for it, I think. So, and if you guys want to keep up with everything, keep up in our socials and our Discord, because if we get that set up, I will be posting it there. I always...
Samesies.
There we go. I always, like, forget if I'm adding an S or not, and I always do the wrong one. Every time.
Yeah, just set up a second one that's identical with the S.
I really do. I need to just set 2 things up for it. And there's our Discord as well. Actually go and follow us and all this to keep up with everything that we are doing here. Also as well, our good friend Mr. Lockesteady, who... Was that a week? 2 weeks ago now? That you celebrated your 1-year stream anniversary?
Last Saturday.
Last Saturday? I was going to say, it's like, it feels like so much has happened. I couldn't remember if it's only been a week or not.
Honestly, right? 8 days. 8 days.
Like, oh no, speaking of your 1-year stream anniversary, the clip that just popped up.
Oh, which one is it?
It's from the, what's the name of it? The one that I won a copy of.
Oh, Heave Ho.
Heave Ho, yeah. There's a lot of clips.
Okay, even if we don't do it on a stream, I need you to play this game with me sometime.
We will definitely set that up. But if for some reason you are following our channel and do not know the gentleman that's been sitting with me this last couple of hours, are not following him on Twitch for some unbeknownst reason, go follow him. Go drop a follow on Lockesteady. You will not be disappointed. This man streams on Wednesdays and Saturdays, so your days now?
Yes, sir.
For anyone,
and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome. For anyone who doesn't know you, if they might not, again, and if you've been in this channel, you know Lock. But just a little shout out to anyone who might not know you, know what you sort of do, what your channel's all about. Just take the chance, go for it, bro.
I mean, the TLDR, I'm a little bit of a variety streamer normally. I play just kind of whatever occurs to me to play. A lot of indie stuff I try to get into. Lately, though, full disclosure, I am a raft streamer now. It's a survival game that's multiplayer, and you're lost on the ocean, and new content came out for it. For the next couple of weeks, that's what I'm going to be playing until we get through the new content. But outside of Raft, I play a little bit of everything. I've done some Sea of Thieves co-streams with this wonderful gentleman here.
Yep.
And some of our other friends as well. I do a lot of goofy co-op stuff. Like, if you're familiar with Overcooked, I've played a bunch of games that are like that. I've also played a lot of Elden Ring lately. I play a lot of Metroidvanias like Hollow Knight. So I try to get a nice little mix of everything. And I always do also like to point out that even though I can behave myself when I'm here because it's a family-friendly channel, I am very much not a family-friendly channel. My channel is absolutely 18 plus. So if that's not for you, I will not be offended. But I do want to put that expectation out there up front, you know?
Yep, just be aware. But if you're okay with that, 100%, I would recommend go and check out Lock. He's one of our best friends. Definitely worth checking out his amazing content. And of course, the content created by his lovely wife, who is in chat, reminding that she also, too, plays Raft.
Mm-hmm.
Funnily enough, usually with Lock. It's funny how that works.
Weird how that happens. Yes.
Be aware or beware. that has to be a t-shirt design. Be aware or beware. I'm gonna say, if you don't put that,
you have my Stream Elements store open.
I was gonna say that it's like, you need to get some merchandise, dude, because I want to buy a Lock shirt and you don't have any. So you need to get some merch.
Funny you mention that. Stream Elements finally added in the ability to do more stuff on black backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually designed a baseball cap the other day.
Nice.
So I have one piece of merch that I'm actually happy with that will be going up soon.
Sweet. Let me know when that goes live. I'll definitely want to pick it up. Also, for anyone, since we're talking about merch,
yeah.
I think I just
I'm still sad about the coffee mug thing. You can only order a mug in white. You can put a black background around it, in which case they'll just slap a...
It's just like, it becomes just like a banner though. Yeah.
Yeah, but the mug itself is still white. The handle's white. There's a white border around everything. I don't love it.
Yeah, it's not amazing.
I've seen them do black mugs on other stores. I hope they do that on Stream Elements at some point, because I don't want to have more than one store.
Yeah, I think it's more a case of like they probably buy stuff in stock and they get like those white mugs and just, you know. But they are doing a lot more stuff though on there, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of stuff up on the store now. We of course have our logo up there on a lot of our merchandise, but also a couple of new designs that went up a couple of months ago, I believe. The greatest streamers you've never heard of, our catchphrase pretty much since day one. And then Smalls mentioning our other one is like, I still need a Brigged mug. We also have merchandise on there, #Brigged, on one of the few designs we were able to get on a cat because it was like simple enough for them to put on there. That was inspired by our very good friend Chunk on Sea of Thieves, because he was the first person in the history of us playing Sea of Thieves that we had to vote in the brig because it was for our own safety.
It's good times.
He kept blowing us up and I'm like, we're done. No, we're done. You're up. We're done getting blown up. In the brig you go. And then of course the catchphrase came when we done our 12-hour stream, and after the man had won stuff, I'd like to point out, started saying that the giveaways were #rigged. That kind of spawned on to being #rigged. I was like, it's rigged, and I'm like, you literally just won something. If it's rigged in your favour. Why would you be complaining? It's like, shut up, stop complaining.
When I gave away that Horizon Collector's Edition, he did the same thing. I was like, bro, you have half the wheel. Yes, it's rigged. It's rigged for you. Of course you won.
It's like, it's rigged, and I'm like, in your favour. Like, the guy's literally getting a commission piece from Nitro right now as we speak that Nitro's working on.
He got one from the last 12-hour stream too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
The one before that.
Well, he was a guarantee to get this freaking one because, like, we've done a giveaway for like commission pieces. We've done a giveaway for 2 commission pieces back to back, and literally the only people that were in chat talking at the time were him and our longtime viewer. It's just me, D. So we didn't even do the giveaway wheel for that one. It's like they're the only 2 there that entered. And I went, I'm not even spinning the freaking thing. It's like you're both getting one. You're the only ones that put a vote in. But anyway, I think I better go since my lovely wife has been left alone with the kids. And how excited they have.
Coming up on 4:30.
Yeah, how excitable they've been this week. They are probably driving her a bit mad right now.
Tell her I said thank you.
I will do. I will 100% blame Locke completely for this. He got me ranting about Gravity Falls. That keeps me busy for a while. But we are going to head off and we are going to go and raid Geeks Under Grace, good friends of us there. We have been good friends with LG over there. He's played a few games with us, so we're going to go and drop them a raid, show them some love. So please stick around and go give them a follow, go hang out with them. I believe they're playing Pokemon right now. I literally just had the screen up and I'm like, Pokemon Coliseum. So let's go show them some love, and we will also... Okay, I'm getting hunted. The wife's in chat. She still blames me, apparently. I'm in trouble.
Busted.
But coming up this week, we do have some amazing stuff happening. We, of course, have my lovely wife, who is now in chat telling me off, is back tomorrow night at 8:30 with some more Nancy Drew as she continues the mystery. Continuing our mystery solving theme. If you are into mysteries and solving conundrums, puzzles, all that sort of stuff, 100% show up and join her for Nancy Drew. I will be back on Tuesday night playing some more Horizon Zero Dawn. I am so hyped to get back into that game. I have played it twice on stream and I am like obsessed with it already. I am like
it's so good.
100% obsessed with it at this point. It was almost a stream for today just because like I was thinking about playing more Horizon and I saw an opportunity, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I was meant to invite Locke back to do a show. I should probably do that while I've got a chance.
Maybe.
Join us again on Thursday as well. Nitro will be back. Best wishes to Nitro. He is obviously with family and stuff over this weekend. I'm not going to go into all of it on here. If you know, you know. But he will be back on Thursday doing some more of Chunk the Hut's commission piece, which is a joined piece of, speaking of Horizon, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, along with Tiny Tina from Tiny Tina's Wonderland and Borderlands. And the piece is turning out really awesome. It's turning out really phenomenal, so definitely come and see the work he does on that. And then on Friday, of course, if you were here, you saw the chaos last week, and we will be back with more Sea of Thieves on Friday. Because I like to punish myself and have my treasure stolen at the last minute.
That's
still not over that. Still mad about that. That sucked. That sucked so much. If you don't know, go and watch the VOD. Like, we literally raided a vault and then got killed and boat sank, so they got our freaking treasure. So mad.
As we were selling.
So mad. We were at the dock, we were selling it. I was so mad about that. Okay, Jay's now doing the be aware or beware. Like, literally, if you don't put that in your store, I'm going to get Nitro to make something for it. So, like, this is your chance, Locker. I'm stealing it.
I don't see any reason why we can't both do it.
Just make it a joint thing. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
So you get one color theme on your side, separate color theme on mine.
Yeah, we could get Nitro to design it. We'll both sell his design on both. Why not?
I'm 1,000% on board.
Get some Nitro merch up in your store as well. Smalls is like, oh yes, do it.
I mean, arguably anything that I slap my logo on is going to be Nitro themed merch anyway, right?
Well, that's true, actually. Well, technically it's the same with us. He did design both our logos. He designed the Comics and the Cross logo and your logo. So yeah, pretty much both stores are like exclusively Nitro design stuff anyway. so yeah, it's a good thing he's a good artist, you know. Because you're getting something worthwhile. But
very proud to rep it.
Alright, I need to go. I'm starting to rant and go and rambles again. We're going to go for a whole other tangent here. But thank you so much for joining on, Locke. I know, I'm in so much trouble. But all of you have an amazing week. All of you have a great time. We will see you all throughout the week and all the dates that I gave you. And remember, it is a good week to be a geek. Take care and have a great day. See you all later.
Bye.
Cierra miedo.